everyone, I think we should be live. Just pause that there. You all know the drill by now. I'm going to play some Alien Soldier. During this streak of Alien Soldier streams, if I haven't been streaming it, I haven't been playing it. Oh, by the way, I don't know how the sound is. I was kind of messing around with OBS, so I might be coming through a bit louder on the microphone. Am I? Maybe. I still need to get something. I still need to get some streamer gear. Hello, everyone. All good? Good evening. Good evening. Sounds good. Okay. Move that slightly there. Yeah, so I haven't played Alien Soldier since the last stream, which was a couple of weeks ago. So the microphone is a little loud. I'll leave it at the volume it's at, because I'll probably end up getting a bit quieter as I go. I'm talking a bit loud now. This is the volume I'll probably be talking at, actually. So hello, everyone. I might stream some Streets of Rage 2. I'm not really in the mood to do a bunch of Alien Soldier runs, so I might just stream one run and then play some Streets of Rage or something. I'm in the mood to chill out. I'm trying to chill out. I'm unsuccessfully trying to relax over the past 2 days, you know? So, yeah. It's a very hard time switching off. Hope you're all doing well. Remember what weapons I like to use. Okay. There's only one. There we go. Oh. I don't have sound either. I can't be bothered to put the headphones on. Where is the Ghouls and Ghosts live stream? I don't know. It's after Rocket Night, I think. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Well, it's emulated depending on your definition of the word. I mean, I would still probably say it qualifies as being emulated. Some people would disagree, but it's running on an FPGA, so the slowdown is it's intentional. It's attempting to replicate the original hardware as closely as possible, and it actually does that through hardware. So so the slowdown should be accurate to the original game. Which I don't know, I kind of like that, you know. Like when I was younger, I probably would have said, you know, one of the benefits of emulation should be that, you know, we can play these games without slowdown, and that is a good aspect of it. Sometimes it kind of depends on the game and what slowdown does to the specific game in question, you know. So that's one piece of damage already. I'm just going to carry on though. Let's face it, we're not going to get a good run having not played the game in a couple of weeks, so I might as well just go for it. But I don't know. I think that there is something to it, you know. Like for example, I think a good example is, you know, in Symphony of the Night, when you at least every version I've played of it anyway. When one of when you kill a boss and the thing goes wow wow wow, you know, there's like a particle effect on screen, the game slows to a crawl. I mean, you can argue that the slowdown there is kind of, they knew it was there, right? Maybe it wasn't there on their development kit or whatever they were, you know, but before release they would have known that that was there and they lived with it, you know. They said this is okay for whatever reason, and maybe that's actually part of the effect, you know. Like if you wanted to get slow-mo back then, like one way of doing that would just be to make the game chug, you know. So I think there's cases where it may have been intentional, or at the very least where the developers went, this is okay, you know, like it's kind of cool in a way if the game slows down a little bit at this point because there's so much happening on screen, you know. Of course there's other games which would probably benefit from just having the frame rate boosted because they're not hitting their target as much as they should, you know. So, but I'm glad that this exists to allow people to experience games as they were, you know. Some of the streams aren't available? I don't know, I haven't deleted anything. Thought Rocket Knight was still up. It's probably still there. I think I did get a copyright claim on something on this channel. I can't remember what it was though. The streams are just fire and forget for me. They go up and that's it. I don't look at anything again, so. I think the copyright thing said there was just like I wouldn't get any ads on it, and I don't think it was Rocket Knight that was on. I can't remember what it was on. Might have been Alien Soldier actually. Lockdown barely impacts me. I don't get out much, so I will admit I do. It's been a full year now. You know, I know some people have been hit much worse by it, and they don't deal well when they're confined to their house for a long period of time. But yeah, even for me, it is getting a bit much having it been a year. I feel kind of confined, you know. But I'll be honest, it's not a big deal for me. I'm thankful that I still have a job and stuff, and I suppose my job kind of changed, and I don't know if I can say I still have it as it was, but you know, yeah. So I'm doing all right. That was a bit risky there because the thing about the dash is that it takes you a fixed distance, so it's kind of not a good idea to stay on the ground while it's spitting out bubbles because you won't always get an opportunity to land somewhere safe from your dash, if that makes sense. Just a lot of them happen to go left there for some reason, so I kind of waited until I saw one going right, and then I dodged to the right. There was definitely Rocket Knight at some point. It could have been at the end of some other game. I only set the stream names to the first game, so it's probably just after some other game. I think I played something else before it as well. I can't remember what though. No, I already got hit at the start, so this can't be the run. I got hit by one of I call them banana slugs, those guys. I don't even know what a banana slug actually is, I've just heard the word. I assume it's a sort of yellow slug monster. I call those guys banana slugs. I got hit by one of those guys at the start, so I've taken 1 damage so far, I think. Anyway. The challenge is less than 10 hits, but yeah, but I mean, in reality, I'm actually, personally, I want to get to no damage someday, so this isn't the run for me. I suppose I could get less than 10 hits though, yeah. The low damage thing is just completely arbitrary. It's just the point where I think I've probably streamed Alien Soldier too much and I should stream something else. I don't know when I'll do it. It is convenient to just keep, you know, the same thing plugged in, so I don't know how sick you all are of Alien Soldier yet. Eventually, the next game that I do repeatedly will probably be Resi 4. If that day ever comes. I hate committing to streams because it's not me, you know? Maybe someday. But I prefer to just sit down and do them whenever. Probably gonna get hit here? No. Very easy to get hit here by they just give you a random bullet. I have to remember not to switch weapon here as well. I always switch weapon. I said it on one of the previous streams. I always switch back to the blaster, and I shouldn't be doing that. That's all. I did it again. I don't know why I do it. It's because the parry is more costly with certain weapons, you know? And in my head, I'm like, well, I should say, because it's quite costly to do a parry with the flamethrower, because it burns through ammo more quickly than other weapons, so I'm like, I gotta conserve that. But actually, I don't use the flamethrower here anyway, so there's no real problem if I burn down all the ammo in it, you know? That's 2 hits now, I think. Good morning, Supersonic. Gunstar Superheroes. Yeah, I haven't played that one. That's the GBA one, is it? I haven't played that. I should probably play more Gunstar Heroes before I would move on to Superheroes. I've definitely played a lot less of it than Alien Soldier. I like it, but I prefer the feel of Alien Soldier. Alien Soldier just feels more solid to me, you know? There's something about Gunstar Heroes, it's a little bit floppy or a little bit loose or something. I don't know how to put it into words, but it doesn't feel quite as tight to me. Yeah, it's reasonably fun in co-op. I mean, I wouldn't say I've ever given it a serious go in co-op. I think, like a lot of games, I don't know, this is kind of a problem I have with games in general. A lot of games they're co-op, but it's basically just single player with 2 people, you know what I mean? I know that's kind of what co-op is, but there's something about that that's not so satisfying. I think it works in beat-em-ups, you know? There's something maybe about the extra space or the ability to control enemies, you know, like I'll knock this guy over here and that frees up space for them to do something over there. But I think in a lot of games the co-op is just you're both playing the game at the same time, you know, like the Mario 3D World. I think I might have said that in my review about it. It's kind of true of a lot of games. And that can be fun. You know, the sheer chaos of that 3D world thing is worth experiencing if you can. But at the same time, is it truly cooperative? You know what I mean? Are you actually cooperating on something, or are you just playing it at the same time? That makes sense? We must be up to at least 5 or 6 hits now. I'm pretty sure every, I don't know, probably like 10 frames or something that you're in the water counts as a hit. Someone says the damage you take in the water doesn't affect the damage count at the end. Okay. I find that hard to believe because sometimes I've been hit very few times and then at the end, I mean, I haven't counted them. You could be right, you could be right. I mean, if you're saying that, you probably know this as a fact. I always assumed it did though. Because sometimes, like, I know, for example, I've gone through the game and only taken damage from maybe 3 bosses, but I'll end up with a really high damage total because one of them happened to be Wolf Gunblood and he shot me, and each of those shots counts as a piece of damage even though it only does a very small amount of damage individually. So you end up with something like 20 damage just for that one boss fight, you know? At least that's the way it feels to me, but I haven't actually tested it, so I could be wrong. There's a whole bunch of questions I would have actually if I was really gonna do a commentary on this game, for example. You know, like, does the lobster have a set number of swings that he does in every phase, or is there a little bit of fudging on it? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I haven't counted them in my head or anything. I would assume it's about 10 swings per phase, but I feel like there could be a slight randomization to that, because there's a lot of randomization in this game, and I think it serves the game well. For the most part, anyway. This thing just needs to give me a clean shot. There we go. No! Really? Not going well tonight. I know I said I'd only do one run, but I'm pretty unhappy with how this one turned out. I'll finish this one and see how I feel anyway. I still don't know what's the best weapon to use on this one. Like, sometimes you get really unlucky with this blaster. My guess is what's happening here is there's every instance of damage that this thing takes, there's a % chance to spawn a retaliation bullet, and the blue beam. What's it called again? The chat must know. I don't know. I don't know. I never remember the names of things, alright? The blue beam thing, it hits very rapidly. Like, it does a whole bunch of shots, but it does them in a very short period of time. So sometimes it's fine, but sometimes you just get spammed with attacks. But I suppose then you can always just dive away. So maybe it is better to use the blue thing. It's more fun though if you're using the blaster, because they come out at a reasonable rate most of the time, so you can kind of, you know, duck in between them, which is obviously what they hope that you would end up doing to avoid damage on that. And it's fun. It's a fun thing to do. It's a cool attack. You gotta, you know, feel out the trajectory of all the projectiles that are coming at you and weave in between them, rather than just diving away and despawning them all, you know? This is one of my favorite bosses, by the way. I don't know if I ever said it. I think it's really cool. The way it takes advantage of your ceiling walking. Using the parry on the cocoon directly. Huh, I never thought of that yet. Okay, I didn't get hit. Thought I might have got hit there. I gotta remember to swap back to silver there as well. This first phase still feels a bit like a crapshoot to me as well. I gotta try and find a way to make it consistent if I actually want to get to 0 damage. Shooting a lot to the left. Another thing I would investigate is I do wonder if your hitbox changes size depending on what level you're in, because I feel like you have a much tighter hitbox during the asteroid section than you do during that bit. I feel like the leg portion in particular seems to extend down further there. Again, could be completely wrong, but it's a suspicion I have about how the game works there. I think it's a little bit more generous in the asteroid level. It seems to be kind of constrained around your belt on the asteroid bit, whereas there it's a little bit more lenient with the sunset stinger shots. At least that's how it feels to me anyway. Yeah, I've played Maximo on PS2. Quite enjoyed it. I thought the first one was better than the second one. I don't think they're amazing, but I was pleasantly surprised by how good the first Maximo was. It's a nice little blend of action and platforming. I think the platforming is better than the action. You know, if the combat was better, it would be a really solid recommendation. I think the combat is just too weak as it is. Which, it's not terrible, it's not unenjoyable, but it's not exactly... Whoa, what happened there? Oh, I think I'll be looking that up on stream later. I feel like I snapped in place. Something happened there. My eyes were a bit glazed over because I was trying to answer the question. I feel like I suddenly shifted position there. Did that happen, or did I imagine it? Anyway, yeah, it's a nice little game, like the first one in particular. I was pleasantly surprised by it. I do wish the combat was a little bit better. It's one of those things, I think, that kind of shows the difference between 2D and 3D games, where I think that, you know, Ghosts and Goblins, the combat in the 2D Ghosts and Goblins, it's not incredible either, but it's really serviceable in a way that I think Maximo isn't, you know, because I don't know, it's just more tactical or something, you know, it's more engaging. You feel like you have more control over the protagonist and stuff, so that's how it feels to me anyway. So I think the combat suffers in that regard, but it's a nice little mix of combat and platforming, and I think it's also a good example of what I said in the Beautiful Joe commentary about how picking stuff up directly is satisfying. You know, some of the things I say especially in some of the longer videos is I don't know if these things matter to anybody else at all. So I would say that the thing that I said in the Beautiful Joe commentary about the way coins magnetize to you and how that kind of detracts a little bit from their intrinsic value, I would say if I was going to cut something from the video, that would be one of the things near the top of the list, because I really don't know if it's important to anybody else, but it feels important to me, so I left it in. And I would say Maximo is a good example of that, because it's nice just to pick up the coins. You know, the coins feel valuable. I think that's one thing that it got right. The coins, the economy of it is quite nice. I mean, you can probably just farm coins forever and stuff, you know, in certain places, but the coins felt satisfying to pick up, and it felt like they had a good amount of value and weight to them and stuff, which really goes a long way towards making the game enjoyable on like a level by level basis, you know. The original Castlevania or Rondo of Blood? I'd have to go with Rondo of Blood, even though I do think Rondo is too easy. That is my main complaint about it. I can understand why somebody would prefer Castlevania 1 or 3, or maybe even Dracula X or even Bloodlines or something, because I would say they're all harder than Rondo, and part of the appeal of Castlevania is the difficulty, but I just think Rondo has the pacing and it's just more engaging on a moment-to-moment basis, I think, in terms of... I feel... I don't know. I do think some of the other Castlevanias are more challenging, but sometimes not in the best ways, you know? So Rondo, it's not as hard as it would be, but at least it's never annoying. It never feels like it's overstepping its mechanics. You know, it never feels like it's pushing too hard against you or anything like that either. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense. Fuck. I got lucky there that I actually picked up the weapon that I wanted. Okay. I don't know if that's the best time to swap that out, but it seems to work. Yeah, that's a good point there. Sneakman says that in the 2D Ghosts and Goblins, combat is more closely tied with platforming, whereas in Maximo it feels like they're separate. That is absolutely true, yeah. In Maximo you jump on some platforms and then you fight a couple of skeletons, and then you jump on some more platforms and you fight a couple of skeletons. There's probably some parts where, you know, that's not true, where it does manage to mix them together a bit more deftly, but yeah, that's my impression of it. That's a rare attack right there. I always feel like it's okay to go over to the left because that thing barely ever does that. I would say that's probably the first time that attack has happened on stream. But yeah, that's the kind of thing where, you know, if you want to minimize damage or get 0 damage, right, which is minimizing damage, yeah. If you want to minimize damage, then you have to factor that stuff in, which I quite like. I've just been ignoring it at my own peril, as you can see, because I got hit by it. That is one of the... Oh, fuck. I forgot where I forgot. I thought I was on the last jump there. You need to do another jump. That is one of the more enjoyable things about doing a challenge run like this, is it forces you to consider things that you don't normally, you know? Like, it can add a lot of complexity and enjoyment to a game. You'd be surprised if you haven't tried it. No, there's no new videos coming. I'm not working on videos at the minute. So you might want to look at the Patreon page, but try my hand at something else instead for now. Is the gist of it. Man, it's a... I'm happy to hear you got SS on Yata, but it's kind of feels shameful to have recommended it to someone else and then have them surpass me like that, you know? I was making good headway the last time I played it. I think I got an AS on Exa. I got very close to getting an SS on Exa difficult, or I'm not sure if it's Exa. It's the one with the big huge slopes that you gotta get up. So I was making progress. I think it's exit. There's another one. There's 3 of the difficult levels that I haven't done. There's the one with all the sort of the spike jump platforms or whatever. And then there's the one with the huge ramps, and then there's Yata. So I haven't done those 3. I got very close to doing the ramp one. It was either an AS or an AA. I think it was an AS. Yeah. It is, I agree, it's kind of hard to commit to Yata. I feel like I should really just do... I might have better luck if I just did a whole playthrough of Dusk Force from the start, because it's kind of insane to, you know, take a year or 2 away from the game and then go back and expect to be able to do something like extra difficult or yada difficult, I think you're probably better off just enjoying a relaxed regular playthrough and seeing how far you can take it again, you know? That might be a better strategy. It's a lot worse on controller. Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. Personally, keyboard controls on platformers and things like that just don't make sense to me. I'm sure if I gave it enough time, I could adapt. When I say they don't make sense, I mean that in an intuitive way. I actually agree that, you know, in theory, Dustforce definitely makes more sense on a keyboard. A lot of games do, because, you know, then you can push each key individually without any travel time of your thumb or anything like that. It definitely sounds advantageous to me to be able to do it that way, but I just can't, man. I didn't grow up on PC. Granted, I wasn't waiting forever for a PC, but, you know, I only got into PC games around Half-Life, the time Half-Life came out, because that was when we got a PC, you know? And even then, it was a bit after Half-Life came out, actually. So I didn't have a PC up until then, so the keyboard was just a non-entity to me for a very long time. There was definitely a while where I was more comfortable with shooters on console, you know, around the Time Splitters era, where I was playing a lot of Time Splitters and I hadn't had a PC for very long. I was more comfortable with shooters then, you know, on console. But obviously I overcame that, and now I know, and now I actually would not play a first-person shooter with a controller. Like, I think there was some PlayStation thing, some PlayStation showcase a while back, and one of the best games they showed, or two of the best games they showed at it, were Returnal and Deathloop. And so I'm interested in both of those games. I think I would enjoy them both. But when I'm watching them, I'm like, this is never ever going to sell me on a PlayStation, because I will never play these games with a controller. It's just not something that's going to happen, you know? Yeah. I think it would be a shame as well if Returnal never gets a PC release, because Housemarque are very good at crafting good difficulty into their games, and I feel, yeah, like, if they're limited, if they know that every player is going to be forever limited by the controller rather than being able to move the mouse around, it's going to impact the difficulty of the game and not make it reach its potential. I mean, I haven't played it, so I don't know if that's what they're going for, or if it's just going to be a story thing that you play once and then, you know, the gameplay doesn't last. But yeah, it was I was watching them and I was just thinking, this means nothing to me as a way of selling a PlayStation, because I just won't touch this with a controller. So I think I could imagine the same being true of a lot of games for you know, like precision platformers and stuff. If you're really good at them with a keyboard, what need do you have for a controller? But I'm just not, and I just don't know that I'm willing to go to all that pain now. I have done pretty well at Dustforce in spite of the controller anyway, you know, so I think it feels more comfortable as well. But again, maybe that's something that just you overcome as you get used to the keyboard, you know. Oh, glanced over at the chat, and for some reason I thought that the boss introduction wasn't finished yet, so I thought I couldn't damage it. Ah, that's unfortunate. So it's probably still better than the runs I was doing right when I started streaming this stuff. Do you like any of Housemarque's work outside of Nex Machina? Yeah, I do have some quibbles with Nex Machina. If I go back to making videos, one of the ones that I would want to make is a thoughts on Nex Machina video, which is one of the things I like about the thoughts on series is that I feel like I don't have to do a full exploration of a game. I can just kind of say what I think is the most interesting thing about it and move on, you know. So I did kind of want to do a breakdown. It might be a little bit repetitive, as it's kind of like... It's kind of one of those things where, you know, it got to the point where in the Mr. Driller video I said, you know, I don't think it's a good score attack game, blah, blah, blah. Because anybody who's watched the channel enough should know my thought process on that, you know. And it is a little bit about that. So I'd want to talk about that. But I also think it does a lot of things well that I would like to highlight. I think that's one of the things that really impressed me about Nex Machina, is there's so many little touches to it that really work. Like, for example... Again, I don't know if I've said this on stream or whatever, but one of the ones that impressed me most was there's a time bonus at the end of a stage, right? So the quicker you finish a stage, the bigger a time bonus you get, naturally, right? But every stage also has hidden missions inside it, right? So that's like you can go into an extra part of the level and you can earn some points in there and you can do some extra stuff in there, but you don't have to, right? So what they did is, if you go into one of those extra things, the timer pauses, right? Now that seems like a very small sort of thing, but it's actually extremely important, because if the timer didn't pause, then depending on what happened, like depending on how it worked out with the timer, you know, the time bonus, and the amount of points that you actually earned for doing that section, then sometimes, you know, if they hadn't balanced it perfectly, then sometimes it could turn out to be that skipping an encounter would guarantee you more points than actually doing it, right? Now, they could maybe avoid that with balancing, you know, and it would take, you know, you'd have to be very interested in the scoring system to work that out, but it was a possibility, and by pausing the timer, they just closed off that possibility. So if the timer is paused, this doesn't affect your time bonus, you know, no matter how long you spend in here, and that guarantees that doing the maximum amount of missions within each stage is always the best way to earn score, which forces players to go through all those extra missions if they want to get the most score. And that's the kind of shit that I love. You know, as soon as I realized that, I was like, somebody on the team thought about this deeply. They realized there was a potential exploit here. They closed it off. And there's a couple of other little, like, very small design decisions in that game, which I really, really like. So yeah, I love Nex Machina, even though I quibble with it, and even though I still don't know if it's actually a good score attack game, because blah, blah, blah. But anyway, I think it's a great game. I do think that their other games are less well considered in that regard, but I did really enjoy Resogun and Super Stardust HD. I didn't play their other one. I know they have a couple of other ones that are a bit less arcadey. I didn't play the less arcadey ones because I like the arcadey stuff a bit more. Apologies if that was a blunt introduction to me possibly not making videos anymore. I didn't mean for it to be that way, but yeah. At this point, I gotta assume that most people on the stream are aware. So yeah, I like Resogun, and I like Super Stardust HD, but I like Nex Machina a lot more because it's just got a bunch of those little things in it, you know. And I will say, again, I have quibbles with Nex Machina, and I don't actually know if it is substantially better as a score attack game compared to Super Stardust HD or Resogun, but I really enjoy all the little touches and consideration that they put into it anyway, and I think that it's a nice... that's one of the things that's good about it anyway. There's a lot of cool little touches in it, so that... yeah, it's a good game. It's a good game. It's a very good game. I don't know, I like... there's like... you can get a sense, you know, when you play a game, sometimes you get a sense that there was at least one person on the other end who really cared about this shit deeply, you know? Because you see things and you go, okay, not everybody would care about that, but somebody did, you know? Somebody went, what if I just want to exploit the game to get the maximum score, and it turns out that time attack, you know, skipping these things and getting the time bonus is the best way to do it. Well, we have to solve that, you know? And so they did. And, like, the number of people who would care about that must be very small, you know? Like, you imagine the average player who just goes, oh, this Nex Machina thing looks kind of cool, right? They're browsing the PlayStation Store and they go, you know, this looks kind of cool, and they don't give a shit about any of that. I'm gonna die here, haven't I? Oh, this will be a shame. This will be a shame. Come on. Yeah, anyway, I'll stop ranting now. The timer pauses there as well, actually. It's not really a coincidence, but the timer pauses when that boss throws the thing up into the air as well. Yeah, the magic pixel, saved by the magic pixel. Why are your recommendations so good? Because I think about them. You know, I do put a lot of effort into them. I really don't like to recommend just anything because I don't want to dilute the value of it, you know? Like, a lot of people have asked me to start recommending more stuff. I did put a few things up on Twitter. I recommended 6 games. What were they again? They were Rondo of Blood, Nex Machina, Baba As You, Prey 2017. I can't remember the other 2. I recommended 2 other great games. What were the other 2? Anyway, I recommended some games recently, but yeah. Oh yeah, Killer 7. Yeah. Series of streams has been your best recommendation yet. I'm quite proud of the recommendation list on the main channel. I think it's a really solid list, personally. I'm glad that I can, you know, even many years after starting the channel, I can look at all of the games that I put on that list and said they're all great and they're all definitely worth playing. So I'd like to keep it that way. Oh yeah, Invisible Link. Yeah, Invisible Link. I don't know if I said this before, but I actually I could have made that Rain World video a bit sooner, but I was being a bit sneaky, and I wasn't finished or anything, but I had a version of it that I definitely could have polished right there and then and finished it before doing Breath of the Wild, but I waited until after doing Breath of the Wild because I knew that would draw in a lot of viewers, and then subsequently the Rain World video would get recommended to more people, you know? So I should really do that again. Just that's what I should have done, like a recommendation after The Last of Us 2 and Death Stranding, you know? Now, that plan definitely worked. That Rain World video has a lot more recommendations or a lot more views than the other recommendations. I think it has the most views already. I would play Rondo of Blood on the PC engine, or, you know, whatever, like the PS4 collection of it, whatever way you can just play the original. I'm glad you enjoyed Cooler World. Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. Again, I don't know if this matters to anybody, but I do really like the thing. I'm glad I got this into the recommendation. One of the nice things about Cooler World is the perspective shifting really fucks with your ability to memorize levels. Because, I mean, the start of it is quite easy and you can memorize those, but once you get into it a bit, even if you're just revisiting it a year or two later, you can really not remember them. It's not easy to remember them anyway. I have a feeling that the same would be true for Baba As You as well. I feel like that one might have that benefit as well. Just because it's not always clear what you need to do in that game. How's the game dev going? It could be better and it could be worse. I think since I've only started out and it could be worse, I'm taking that as a victory. I did, this might be a spoiler for the blog posts coming up if you don't want to plug your ears, but I went back and refactored some of the collision stuff, and oh man, I refactored it so many times, and it's one of those things where I've done it so much I don't know if what I've come out the other end is actually better or worse than what I had before, but I think it's time to move on, because it works. The thing that I've done works anyway. Basically what I've done is I've kind of set up like a few kind of helper functions for me, like utility functions that sort of return certain values and stuff like that. And now I'm trying to take a break over the weekend. I was trying to relax today. I didn't do a very good job of relaxing. Yesterday I tried to relax as well, and I ended up cleaning a bunch of the house. Very hard time switching off. Like, I'll go to relax and I'll think, Okay, relax. How are you going to relax? You should read some manga in Japanese, you know? Because then you'll be learning something. Or how am I going to relax? You should watch some videos about programming or whatever, you know? Because that's what you're doing now. So I'm trying to relax today by having a stream. I feel like streaming is a good way to... It's not relaxing exactly, but it's a way to feel productive without being too stressful. Anyway, yeah, so after this... Tomorrow, I suppose, since it's Monday, I'm going to move on to how the player character interprets that data. So again, I have a rough version of that, but it's messy and it's not as solid as I would like it to be. So it's going to be all about how the player character responds to the collision data. So I feel like I have a clean way of storing and getting the collision data and stuff. But now I just have to figure out how the player character responds to it, and there are some complications to that, which I suppose I will save for the blog post. I think, by the way, if you're a patron, maybe it's worth knowing. I don't want to spam the patron feed with a bunch of meaningless bullshit, you know. But I think the next post won't actually be about collision detection. I think it's good if I have a buffer between the stuff that I've worked on and the stuff that I'm writing about, so I have more time to refine it and reflect on what I did and blah blah blah. So I'll just talk about, at the end of this month, I'll just talk about some more general ideas. That's pretty good. Yeah, I would say if that's 18, then you're probably right. I think I fell in the water twice in that one, did I? I fell at least once anyway. 18 is not bad. 18 is not bad. No, I'm using Game Maker. I'll talk about that in the next post. That's one of the things I think it would be good to talk about first. Although, I don't really have anything sophisticated to say about it other than mostly I don't want to write my own tools, you know? And I have to say, so far the work that I've done would slot into another engine pretty much the same, you know? So as long as I'm doing things like that, I don't really care what engine I'm using. You know what I mean? I know there's pros and cons and stuff, but I'm thinking I'll play some Streets of Rage to relax. I probably won't do very well, but give me a second. Let's change the settings to USA. I'll play some Streets of Rage 2, if nobody minds. Oh, I set the cartridge to reset into the specific game, but there's a nice handy way around. What the hell? Oh, that's weird. Why does it do that? Do I have to turn the console off? I don't know if I can do that and maintain the stream. I've never done this before. I've never actually turned the console off and on fully. Let's hope that doesn't freak out OBS too much. Okay, so what are my settings again? We change it to 4.5 times height so it fills up the whole frame. That's what I wanted to do there. And I think I got what was I saying? I can't remember. Hang on, give me a second here. All right, I should be back. Hello. I'm not moving off the Mega SG. Yeah, Game Maker has its own scripting language, GML. Hello, everybody. So you can't actually hear the console while I'm doing that. I was wondering if you were being able to hear the console. What do you think of the transition there? Look at that. Pretty cool, right? It's just a it's just a basic open broadcaster thing, you know. It's one of these things where it feels cheap. Well, not. I think the effect looks cool. I like it personally. You know, it's very old school. Just a bunch of squares, kind of, you know, appearing or disappearing. I think it looks cool, but also I feel kind of bad because I did nothing to deserve that. You know what I mean? It's just there in OBS, and you just hit a setting and it turns on. Someone made that. I don't know who, but I feel like there's a lot of coattail riding going on these days on online. You know, people are earning a lot of money doing streams and videos and shit where they basically just spam After Effects. And everybody goes, wow, that looks great. But yeah, some dude coded that. You didn't, you know, but like someone did, and he made it very easy for you to use. And there's a lot of money being made off that. So thank you. So we give thanks to the man who coded the square transition-y thing. You know what I mean? Say thanks, square dude. Oh no, I showed my away screen. There we go. I didn't mean to click that, but there you go. I was saving that one. That's my away screen. I came up with an away screen now. What do you think? I clicked on the wrong one. That's what I was doing in OBS. That I changed the settings around. That's actual Platinum Games art, by the way. It was supposed to be, what it was supposed to be was yeah, you're supposed to be in the chair. It was supposed to be a kind of stream background thing, you know, for conferences or whatever. You would green screen yourself into the chair, you know, as a background on chat programs or whatever. But I'm a man of mystery, you know, a man of ugly mystery, and so it's an empty chair for when I'm away. But yeah, I really like that. I really like the squares. I think the squares are cool. At least I didn't click on the Sonic Dreams collection folder. That folder is backed up. Don't worry. Yeah, the work has been interesting so far. It's been enjoyable. Enjoyable. I wouldn't say it's been an unmitigated success in that it took me way longer to settle on an approach than I liked, but it's and I mean, who knows? A couple of months from now I could go, that was all fucking stupid, so I gotta redo it all, you know? That's part of the process, I suppose. I don't know if you can tech throws in this one. I was trying though. I was trying. You think beat 'em ups are relatively lowbrow? Not necessarily. I wonder if you can... I don't think you can use... I'm pretty sure you can't use 6 buttons with this one. I think it's just Streets of Rage 3 you can use it with, because I would really like an easy way to... Oh, fuck. I'd really like an easy way to throw the weapon away. I'm not such a fan of the button combo. Ah. Hold up and mash jump. Okay. You have to be holding up. I probably wouldn't have got that. I had a sense you could do it. I was definitely trying to do it. Because I was thinking the idea occurred to me so quickly, there's no way it's only in the 4th game, right? Because if it was only in the 4th game, I wouldn't have even remembered it. Not this in the 4th game there. I've played it a few times. I really enjoy it. Just it's not in the memory banks the way this one is, you know. I think there's something behind this pillar, maybe. I can't remember the last time I did an Axel run in Streets of Rage 2. I do like going into the grand upper like that. Gotta get the combo timing abuse down. Definitely one of the good changes about Streets of Rage 4, that you can't do this. Yeah, I saw that they .emu announced a TMNT thing. I'm interested in it, but is it just... I feel like companies kind of intentionally fudge this sometimes in terms of who's actually making a game, right? They're the developer, or they're the publisher or something. I don't think it's the same team that did Streets of Rage 4 anyway, is my point. They might be involved to some degree, and maybe they'll have a positive impact on the game, but I'm not expecting another Streets of Rage 4 quality beat 'em up out of that one. For whatever reason, I don't know. I need to look into what's actually happening there. It looked alright though, yeah, from the trailer. Ah, there we go. Actually, I didn't... I'm so pro, I didn't actually spam the jump button. I just timed it right. All 3 times. I don't know if anybody agrees with me, but I feel like Barban is actually one of the worst bosses in 4. I know the train fight is obviously ridiculous on the higher difficulties, but as a solo entity, I think Barban is probably one of the hardest things in the game. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, Bayonetta is great. Just go back to the video if you ever need some help, but you know, don't feel the need to go and watch the whole thing or anything like that. The dodge offset part at the start is really the main thing you need. After that, I think the game is so enjoyable that you'll just go the rest of the way yourself, you know? This is one of those stages where the chicken is kind of, it's placed just right, if I remember. I don't remember where it is. I barely remember the game at all, even though I would have streamed it maybe a year ago or something. But I feel like it's placed just right so that you're just worn down enough that you either die or you get it. You know, you're right on that knife edge right when it arrives. That's where you want it to be. Ah, I don't think I should have got hit by that. Come on then. Safer to jump off him like that. That didn't hit. How do I hit him? Wow. That was not what I expected. Oh, okay, we got an apple. We're okay. Oh. Man, these guys are giving me a lot of trouble. Bad shape. I think I'm gonna die. Oh, oh, oh. Just walk diagonally. The safest possible way to walk and beat him up diagonally. Okay. I think it's... Is there one in here? It's like a trick so that you end up going in before you get it. Ah, there we go. Ah, we're okay now. There we go. We might be close to another life as well. Let's leave that there. Might like an apple later. Maybe if I don't walk forward, these guys... I forget when these guys activate. Should be using the throws more often. That's the best part of Axel compared to Skate. It's just headbutting people into other people and throwing them over your shoulder and making some space for yourself that way, you know? What is it? Is that it? No. How do I do the shoulder? Oh yeah. Is this... Shut up, you. There we go. Gotta get used to the throws again, because it's going to be important later. There we go. Like that. One up behind the truck. Oh no, I didn't know that. I just wanted the money, man. No! Asshole. This guy, he's actually one of the easiest things in the game if you just get him into a repeating pattern. Like that. Come on, come at me again. There we go. I don't know if there's any point doing anything different, because when I hit him, he got knocked away anyway, so it seems like I can only get one hit off at a time. This feels a little cheap, but whatever. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. That does a lot more damage. The neutral, it looks like. So that does a lot more damage, I think. Oh. Doesn't he have that? Where's that that sort of rising kick? Is that only in the third game onwards? I like that. Maybe it's only in the fourth one, is it? Well, if it's only in the fourth one, that's a good conclusion. I really like that rising kick he does when you do that forward grab combo. So yeah, this is why I wouldn't say that beat 'em ups are lowbrow, because I think playing them well is about controlling the space, you know? So you can either just mash your way through with continues or whatever, but if you want to... I'm not saying I'm the best Streets of Rage player out there, but I'm decent, I think, and that's the way to get decent is, you know, control the area, knock people into other people. So you got to think a little bit tactically, you know? That's part of the appeal, I think. I mean, you can definitely, sometimes you get a nice opportunity to just do some exploitive shit, like hit someone with a slight delay over and over again. But sometimes you gotta think, is there something here? Can I break these? I know there's something, I'm pretty sure there's a life somewhere near here. One of these crates, there's a life, I think. I think maybe when I was streaming before, I ended up letting the life go off screen or something? I don't know. That life has annoyed me in the past, I feel like. It's a little bit cheesy as well, trying to stay back and not let the other guy activate. That's another good thing. The fourth game has like a dedicated weapon pickup button, I think. If you get more than 9 lives, are they saved or what? Is there anything mechanically you think the original DMC still does better than Bayonetta and the Wonderful 101? Good question. I feel like there has been. And one of the things I like about the course of, you know, Kamiya's games is that it tends to be improvement, right? And that's not guaranteed. You know, no matter what the developer is, it's not a guarantee that the next game will be an improvement over the last one. I do think there's some ways that there's not an improvement, you know, but I think the general course has been improvement, which is nice. I would say it's not really a mechanical improvement, but I do wish that there was less distractions, you know what I mean? Like, I think if you put me in charge of a Wonderful 101 sequel, I actually probably would include a fair bit of minigame style stuff in it, because I think when you get used to it, it's good. It's part of what gives the game its identity, I think. I think that, you know, sometimes it hits and sometimes it misses, and you know, on those little mini games, but it's kind of, maybe it's just because I like it so much, but I feel like the Wonderful 101 is a celebration of games in some way, and I think part of that is trying to do some other gamey shit in your game, even if you don't get it right all the time. But I think, for example, that stuff doesn't really have a place in Bayonetta. You know, it doesn't make as much sense in Bayonetta to me. So, for example, I would be happy again, even though, if there was a Wonderful 101 sequel, like, if they come out with a Wonderful 101 sequel and it doesn't have a punch-out section, that's a disappointment. That's just straight up a disappointment, right? If you're doing a sequel, you gotta put a punch-out section, like, 2/3 of the way through the game, you know? So people go, oh my god, it's back, you know? Like, I get to do another one of these, right? I would be excited for that. But I would also be very happy if, you know, Kamiya went, okay, I've got all the mini-games out of my system, and Project GG will just be much more straightforward, you know? I think that there can be complexity in the game. I don't want the game to just be a series of, you know, walk forward, go into circular arena with no obstacles in it and enemies appear and that's it. That's not the best part of Devil May Cry, you know, but there is a certain level of focus to it that is nice. And Beautiful Joe shares that focus as well. So there's that. I think the atmosphere of the first Devil May Cry is really cool as well. It's not something we've ever seen since. I think it's something that would be really hard to replicate because it actually kind of comes from its development history of starting out as a Resident Evil game. You know, I think that there's something about it of it being almost like a traditional horror game where you are just a supernatural demon man who, you know, destroys everything. I feel like the later Devil May Cry games have sometimes kind of gone for that and almost got there. Like the 5th game is pretty dark in terms of its setting and stuff, but I don't think it quite gets there on the horror spectrum, if that's what you want to call it. It's not exactly horror, but there's something. Like, you know, I think a perfect personification of it is the ancient castle stage music. It's just brilliant, you know. It sounds like something you would hear in a horror game, but it's not in a horror game, right? And that's kind of cool as well. I don't know, that's not necessarily better or worse than Bayonetta and stuff, but it's something that's I don't think I've ever seen again to that extent anyway. Well, Bayonetta's Panther sections are fine by me because the Panther is something that you do during regular gameplay anyway, so I don't mind that. I'm talking about the Space Harrier stage in particular. I think Route 666 is better. Maybe if I went for a pure platinum on, you know, Infinite Climax, I would change my mind because there's always stuff that you're not aware of. But yeah, I think the Space Harrier bit is way too long in that game. I know some people really hate the minigame stuff in the Wonderful 101, but personally I think the worst minigame offender is that Space Harrier bit in Bayonetta. That's Kamiya's worst offense on that regard. Nothing in the Wonderful 101 comes close to me as that. Well, I do think that one of the mistakes they made with the remaster was I think it's because the game is frame rate dependent. And the frame rate is much better towards the end of the game when things get particularly crazy. The bit where you have to go through the laser beams, it's just practically uncontrollable. And those beams get really tight on the higher difficulties. That's really bad. It was much slower in the Wii U version. I haven't gone back to modding the Wonderful 101 yet. I know I said I would at some point. But I'm waiting to see what they patch, if they patch anything else. Like, for example, I think one thing that they don't necessarily have to patch that part with the lasers because it's technically not a flaw with the remaster, right? If you understand how the game works and how the remaster is done, it's technically not a flaw because they haven't actually changed, as far as I'm aware, they haven't actually changed how the game behaves, right? All that's happening is that the game has sped up, and as a result the game has actually changed, but nothing about the underlying implementation of the game has changed, right? So it's kind of, if you're thinking purely as a programmer, you go, I did my job perfectly because I replicated the original game as it was, right? But if you actually look at it experientially and say, what does the player experience at this moment, then they haven't replicated it perfectly. And Bayonetta suffers from that much worse because the QuickTime events are much, they expect you to mash a lot harder. Yeah, this is actually, somebody asked, would I do a Bayonetta mod? Yeah, the boomerang, 009B boomerang part is the part I'm talking about. So for anybody who didn't play the Wii U release but played the remaster, the boomerang part in 009B is that is different in the remaster. It's much harder to control yourself. You move much further distances than you did in the Wii U because, at least I believe what's happening is, in the Wii U version, the frame rate tanked there, right? Because it's a complex scene. And so you move the analog stick forward and say, you know, you're moving for like a full second, right? 30 frames elapse and you decide to let go of the stick. And so you've only moved a certain distance, right? Only a certain amount has been input. Whereas in the new version, if you move the stick for the same amount of real time, 60 frames have elapsed, and so you've moved much further, right? So it's much harder to control yourself during that part. So in a sense, they have replicated the game perfectly, but in the player experience side of things, it's not the same, and I think that should be more important. So I'm waiting to see if any changes happen there, but if I go back to modding, that would be one of the fixes I would do, is to try and slow that part down so that it actually matches the original. I think it's that part is particularly bad in the Wonderful 101, but I think Bayonetta also suffers from it really bad. It's arguable which one is worse, but yeah, somebody said it there. The Jean fights in Bayo 1, so the last set of Jean fights has QuickTime events in it, and it is really hard to mash through those on the PC version, and they were intended to be somewhat difficult, I think, but they're much easier, at least on the Wii U version. I've never actually played the Xbox version, but I have to imagine the frame rate is not perfectly solid on the Xbox 360 at those points either. So actually, you were given more real time to make those same number of inputs, you know? So if you wanted to replicate that perfectly, what you would need to do is have some kind of multiplier on the player's input, so that every button press that they're doing is now actually worth 1.2 button presses or something like that, you know? So there's a few areas in the Wonderful 101 that are harder to mash through as well, as a result. Thankfully, Wonderful 101 doesn't require you to mash quite as hard as Bayonetta does during that sequence, but like I said, it suffers during that laser part. So, you know, that's a problem. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that's what's happening. There could be other explanations, but I do think it's just because the game it's running based on its frame rate, and it's running faster now. It's much more subtle because the frame rate tends to be a lot more stable during regular combat on the original release. But when I started playing the remaster, personally, I kept getting hit by what are they called? The hoedowns, you know, the tanks that shoot the balls at you, because I had that timing so ingrained in my memory, and it's just a little bit faster in the remaster, but that's okay because it's still well within the realm of fair. You know, it actually makes the game more engaging because it's a little bit faster paced, and that's good. But in the case of the thing, and it's arguable as well, because it could be that, you know, whatever way they were debugging the game, like maybe they were playing it on PC the whole time they were making it, and actually when they were making it, that's the part that gets checked by the gameplay designer or whatever, and he says, oh yeah, that's fine, that's how I intended it to be. And then it comes out on the Wii U and it's a bit slower, and they go, well, you know, whatever, that's just how it is. So maybe they actually originally intended for it to be at that higher thing, but I really feel like that laser section, it just doesn't feel right in the new version. I think the old version is more what they intended. So that's something. And also I would like to, if they don't, this is something they really should fix, but those spiked Gedi Dogu, I think they're called, are not responding to things like the time bomb and hero time. And that's a pretty big mistake there. So if they don't fix that, I'll pop it into the mod, but I really hope that they fix that one officially. You think that the right analog stick is good for sword play? I assume you're talking about Skyward Sword. I haven't played it, so nobody has played it yet. I don't know. I think it's probably the best implementation they could do without forcing everybody to use motion controls, so I think it's okay, yeah. Do you also have to mash harder to turn the gear in the part where Wonder Red and Wonder Blue get separated? Yes, yeah. Generally speaking, you have to mash harder during everything. This goes for Bayonetta and the Wonderful 101. In their PC releases, you have to mash harder on every single QuickTime event than you did on the original. Now, the thing is, I mean, you could really go down the rabbit hole on trying to preserve the original experience on this, because the amount that you have to mash harder depends on the complexity of the scene, right? Basically, it depends on how much the frame rate tanked in the original. If it only tanked a little bit, then you only have to mash a little bit harder in the re-release. Whereas if it tanked really hard, then you have to mash much harder. So it's proportional in that way. But yeah, you probably did, because in that scene, it's not a complex scene in the original, but if I had to guess, it's probably actually running at around 55 frames or maybe even 50 or something like that, you know? So, so yeah, you have to mash harder during everything. Irishman knocks down Big Ben. Yeah. Would it be possible to make a mission select for... I did for Operation 101, yeah. I suppose maybe I technically could for the other levels. The thing is, it becomes a bit more complicated. It's actually probably not that much more complicated. I probably could do it. But I don't really want to, if I'm being honest, you know? I get to control the direction of this thing, and... you know, if I don't want to do it, I don't have to. So that's a nice thing. Somebody asked me on Twitter. I appreciated their honesty and their forthcomingness on it. But somebody asked me on Twitter around the time I released the first version, and they went, "Look, I know that you don't want this, right?" I'm paraphrasing here, right? But they said, "I know you probably don't want us to be able to have infinite health on enemies, but I personally would really like that." And I figured Set and Arrow would probably like that as well, and he was helping me out with the testing. And so I went, "You're right, I don't like it, but, you know, since you asked so nicely and you knew that I wouldn't like it, I'll put it in anyway." You know? So, there you go. Yeah, but I don't think a mission select for... I put in case you missed it, there is a mission select in the mod for Operation 101, but not for other stages. Yeah, diplomacy succeeded in that, in that case. You have a list of all the PS2 games you've ever played somewhere? No. I would have to imagine it's about 70 games, though. I tried to do a rough count in my head, and I think it's about 70. I'm running out of stuff. I'm running out of stuff. I don't know if I want to go back to Monster Hunter. I think I might just wait and get one of them on PC. I would like to build a new PC, but man, the fucking GPU stuff, you know? It's just crazy. I mean, I don't even want to spend the money on a new PC, but it's at the point where it's kind of getting ridiculous not to have built a new one, because I'm on an i5 2500K over here, you know, so it's pretty bad. So it would be nice to have one. But the GPU thing is just fucking unreal. It's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. I don't keep a backlog. Yeah. Absolute worst game you've ever played. It's probably something I don't remember. You know, some random... Because I take a shot on random games sometimes. It's probably one I don't remember. Not the best, not the healthiest life count. I probably had more lives going through here with Skate, and I'm pretty sure Axel is supposed to be the stronger character, but what can I say? I mostly play Skate in this game. This is just the relaxation anyway. The alien soldier is where I'm putting the effort, right? So I'm probably not going to finish it. If I run out of lives, I might just stop there rather than continuing. I might go back and do another alien soldier actually. I'm not tired. Although maybe it's better to step away from the computer for a while, since I'm going back to work tomorrow. I started on it March 1st was when I went back to it, right? So I had done a bit of work before. Like I said, I had something... I said, you know, I had a collision thing working, and of course, as soon as I went back to it, I was like, man, this is fucked, this is fucked, this is fucked, this needs to be, you know. So obviously it wasn't in great shape, really. But I went back to it, and then I was really productive, and I felt the productivity falling off. But of course, I don't take a break, you know. I was like, okay, man, you weren't productive yesterday. Better fucking get up and worry about it all day again today, and work twice as hard today. And then you just, you know. So, trying to take a weekend off. Not really succeeding, but I am actually looking forward to getting off to it. I think what helps is to just cross some shit off mentally, you know? Like, say I've done certain things and now I just need to cross them out because I know they work. Not dwell on how well they work. They work. We can worry about making them work better another time, and we can move on to something else, you know? Because part of the problem is I would like to get something really solid, you know, not to make a pun or anything, but something really solid down, and it's a blocker. It's one of those things that's a blocker, you know? You feel like you can't really do anything else until you get this one sorted. Has anyone ever done no damage Streets of Rage? I don't know if that's possible. I would assume it isn't. Oh, well, it's definitely possible if you just brute force it, you know, long enough. But is it a million monkeys with a million typewriters sort of situation? Is it like a quantum luck kind of situation, you know? Or is it something actually repeatable? Wanted to say I came around to the idea of only showing the Tomorrow Children's title screen. I think whatever you imagine the game is what you want it to be. See how Death Stranding doesn't stand up. That I wouldn't say that's really what I was going for with the title screen, but it is an interesting way of thinking on it. Yeah, that it might help you fill the gap in your head about what Death Stranding, you know, the ways that Death Stranding could have been better. I'd be lying if I said that's what I was going for, but I'm glad it had a positive effect on you. It wasn't a decision I made lightly, you know, but I saw one of the comments on the video. I think it was somebody who maybe doesn't watch me generally. I think I saw somebody saying something to the effect of like, it's lazy to only show the title screen. And here's me thinking, I've been at this 8 fucking years and I've always tried to have something relevant on screen, you know? So I don't know. I just think I'm guilty of it myself sometimes, but I've tried to be better, you know, especially going through the years and stuff. But it's a problem with the internet in general, where people are just immediately uncharitable to anything, you know? Maybe just imagine it wasn't laziness, right? Just imagine that I maybe had another reason for it other than laziness. Because I think I said this when I was talking about Meta Micro videos, where I had an idea that I wanted to do that was complex, which was like make a little sort of chip tune of my own. And then I realized that something else would be better, and the better thing was easier to do. And because it was easier, I was suspicious of it. It's a bad habit that I have. But when something is easy, I think I get suspicious, and I think maybe you're just doing this because it's easy, or maybe, you know, maybe this is worse, you know? If it's not as difficult to do, maybe it's worse. But that's not a good way to think about things. Sometimes the easy thing is the right thing to do, you know? And I think that can be a difficult pill to swallow for some people. You know, I happen to be one of those people. I think it's a difficult pill to swallow, that sometimes the easy thing is the right thing to do. Oh, I'm amazed I survived that. Please don't kill me now. Come on. Don't. Oh. Oh, come on. Oh, varying his timing or something. That was fucking tricky. Yeah, that does a lot more damage. Did you know that an infinite number of monkeys with an infinite number of Mega Drives will eventually complete Streets of Rage 2 without getting hit? The thought had occurred to me, yeah. About 2 minutes ago, I think the thought occurred to me. I mean, should I be doing this? It's very cheap. I feel like I feel like an asshole doing that. Sometimes the easy thing to do is the right thing to do, you know? Just press the punch button at a certain interval. Like so. Oh, hey! The ninja is no match for the evenly spaced fist. I have perfect rhythm. It's over. You walked into my perfect rhythm trap. You just leave your fist out, you know? As soon as you walk into my fist, it's over. Do you believe in aliens? Not only do I believe in aliens, I believe that aliens have invented Tetris. Sorry man, I'm low on health. You don't get a fair fight. Oh, this feels so cheap. It really does feel so cheap. It's a shame when a game has something like this, you know? I don't want to do it. Probably can't do it to this guy, so that's something. Whoa. I will try to keep that recommendation in mind. Warzard/Red. Oh, I tried to play Red Earth at one point, actually. Yeah. I didn't get into it, but I do think it could be something I would enjoy. I like the premise, anyway. It's pretty cool. It's like a... It's kind of like a fighting game, but it's a one-on-one fighting game. So it's... The enemies are all weird kind of things that wouldn't really make sense for something that you could pick in a versus fighting game. At least if I remember it right. Anyway, the premise seemed pretty cool, yeah. I didn't really give it much time though. It felt a little bit sluggish to me or something, but yeah, I do think that looks like a cool game. It's something I'm definitely open to giving another shot. Did I beat that? I beat the bear guy without dying, didn't I? That's pretty cool. Shame that they were all still alive there. I thought I might have got one of them at least. I tried to tech that, but I don't know if I was just mistimed it, or maybe you can't do that when you're flying backwards. Oh, my neck's starting to hurt. Sitting forward in my chair again. Fuck's sake. Don't make it easy on myself, do I? And at least put him out of his misery a bit quicker with the ground upper. You can really save yourself from a lot of damage by taking the throws. I forget, does he have... I think it's only in Streets of Rage 3 onwards that he has the big combo. If he does have it in this and I haven't been using it, I'm going to be annoyed. Oh, he does! Oh, I love that combo. God damn it. Should have been using that on bosses. Not really much use for regular enemies if you can keep them stunned with the you know, perfectly spaced punches. But yeah, it's good for bosses. Whatever, I feel too cheap doing that. I don't want to do it all the time. I want to at least avoid one of his attacks or something. There we go. Now it feels like we're actually playing the game rather than just trying to win, you know? It's an underrated mentality. Oh. Oh no, 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 come on. Fuck. That went south very quickly. Up you go. Me too. Oh, fuck's sake. Thought I grabbed him. I was trying to grab him, so. See, it would have been good. Would have been good on this guy. Oh! Oh, nearly took him down straight away. Man, he's only got a little bit of health left. I'm getting obsessed with the flying guy. Asshole! You fucking asshole! Come on, you. Fuck, that's bad. Ah, come on. No. I didn't mean to grab him. We should do the ground upper a bit more. Ground upper seems to work pretty well on him. It's got some invincibility on it. That's pretty bad. No, at least we got an extra life there. I forgot about this level. I thought I was going straight into the elevator. Shouldn't have knocked him down. There we go. I feel a little less cheap if I'm at least spending a bit of energy to do that. Yeah, I've played the Metal Slugs. I think No, I didn't do a 1 credit clear on the first one, but I got pretty close. I played the first one to the point where I got it down to maybe 2 credits or something like that, and I went, that's enough for me. I've played the second one, or X, or maybe both of them, a good bit. I never really played much of the third one. Got no objections to them or anything like that. I'm just not in a rush to get through them all. Heavy machine gun. I didn't want to pick up the fucking thing. I didn't want to pick it up. God damn it. Oh, you bitch. Oh, you bitch. No, you're gonna kill me. You bitch. Oh, okay. Okay. We get a life. That's fine. That wouldn't have made a difference anyway. That's why I'm relieved. I mean, there's probably health in that thing there, but... yeah. Well, that is quite a lot of health, unfortunately. No, you're not robbing me of that. God damn, this is getting out of control. I don't have sound, so I can't tell who's dead. It looks like one of the girls is dead. Okay. I think we're good now. I was hoping the conveyor was going to drag her back enough that her attack wouldn't land. No, I never played 10,000 Bullets for the PS2. I'll try to remember it. I don't know if I've mentioned Cure Dolly on stream. Yeah, I did mention her on Twitter. I haven't had that much time to watch her videos. I watched a couple more again, I think. It's for those who missed it. Anyway, she's a Japanese tutor. It's kind of like a VTuber, but it's like an older model, you know. She does Japanese things, and she kind of teaches the grammar in a different way from everybody else, which I found more helpful. I mean, I will say, I suppose, if I hadn't learned at least some of the grammar the other way, I don't know if the video would have resonated with me quite as much as it did. The videos. I've watched about 20 of them now, I think. I don't know if the videos would have resonated with me quite the same way, but it's pretty ridiculous how much more clearly Wang are in my head after like one Cure Dolly video compared to all the other shit that I've seen about them. And granted, I never studied the grammar as much as I should have, but I did look into it a bit. You know, I've read a few explanations of the difference between Wang and it never became any more clear than just watching a single one of her videos. So it's definitely worth checking out if you haven't, if you're interested in learning the language. Just a different approach. I mean, I hate the way. We'll carry on. I hate the way. I was tempted to go for skate, but I hate the way people take shortcuts. You know, I suppose it's worse with the Japanese learning than a lot of things, but with education and stuff in general, people take these shortcuts, and then the shortcut ends up hindering you. You know. Just teach the fucking thing as it actually is. Like, I don't go into learning a new language and expect a literal translation of every sentence to come out in English meaning exactly the same way, you know? Like, the common example she uses is something like keiki wa suki desu, right? And everybody says that means I like cake. But that's not what it means. At least if she's to be believed, you know? That's not what it means at all. It means that cake is liked, or cake is likable, you know, or as for me, cake is liked, or there's like a subtle difference to it, and the same goes for so many other sentences. Sometimes it gets pretty extreme to where when you literally translate what's happening, it sounds like rubbish in English, right? But if that's what's actually happening in the language, okay, I'm a big boy, you know, I can figure what that fucking means if the words are all in the wrong order. I would rather learn what's actually happening in the Japanese than you say, that means I like cake, and then you're just fucking confused for the rest of your life as to, okay, I know that means cake, but I don't really know how, you know? It's a problem. No, I don't speak Japanese, and bad teaching is one reason why. No, it's because I don't put a lot of time into it. I know a little bit. I know other sources do try and make the distinction between wa and ga clear and stuff, but it's a whole different ball game. Just watching a couple of her videos just made it so much more clear for me. It's crazy. I think I did better when I played a skate, didn't I? I think I got to the elevator right at the end before I had to use the continue. There's other stuff too, though. For example, the thing about helper verbs and how the verbs are actually being combined at the end rather than just being a single conjugation the way you might explain it in English just makes so much more sense, and it immediately helps you parse stuff like, oh, okay, when a sentence ends in kureru, it means something, or sureru or sareru or whatever it is. My grammar's not great, but like it immediately helps you parse, oh, this is like something is being given to something, or something is being, it's just, I don't know. I probably shouldn't be too critical, because like I said, I didn't do much grammar study, not nearly as much as I should have. I have way better, my vocabulary has way outstripped my grammar to a ridiculous degree. It's really stupid what I've done. Yeah, I'm thoroughly switched off at this point. Just keep walking into those fucking flails over and over again. I'd kind of like to go back to Alien Soldier. Yeah, fuck it. I'm going to do another Alien Soldier run. Whatever. Alright, I'm supposed to be relaxing. If I want to play something else, I'll just play something else. How do I do this? Am I gonna have to am I going to have to turn the console off again? I'll be back in a second anyway. It's a good time for a little break. 1 sec. Hello, everyone. All right. Oh, I was just thinking. Somebody, what was I doing? Oh yeah, I was trying to. Oh yeah, I should stop this. I was trying to try and be professional, you know, have a nice little interlude window. I was just thinking if the water really doesn't count as damage, then I could fall in the water and get 0 damage, which would be kind of annoying. Kind of an annoying thing to happen on a run where it happens, you know? We want 4.5 times height to give you a nice viewing experience. And we got to be set to Japan. For whatever reason, this did release in the US, but for whatever reason you don't get the US version. I think it did release in the US, but you don't get the US version in that Steam collection. You just get the European and the Japanese one. I was on some weird thing. Somebody mentioned it before, I think. On some weird system. Some weird download system or some shit in the US, which is why it didn't get any traction. I didn't get around to Crash 4, no, I was waiting for a PC release, and then they announced it's fucking Battle.net. So, I don't know. I'd prefer to get it on Steam or something. If it goes long enough, I might get a Switch version of it. Nearly got that. Means I can't Phoenix dive this guy either. Oh, get that go! Oh yeah, worked. It's risky. You don't, if you're trying to avoid as much damage as possible, you don't want to stand on the ground when he does that because you'll almost certainly get hit by something. So you kind of want to be in the air a little bit. And then just catch a couple of bits of it. Like that. And that way you don't get hit. I don't play games on stream for the first time because I think it interferes with your ability to enjoy them. Lucky there, I think. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Pac-Mania. I don't know if that video elaborates on why it's good, but it's just a great game. I don't know if it. I still don't know if it gets the attention it deserves. Unless it's one of those bullshit made-up quotes. I'm pretty sure Miyamoto said that Pac-Man is like his favorite character. So it was probably a big influence on Mario, you know, the whole fact that Mario picks up different power-ups and stuff. Obviously Mario is a nice evolution on that, but you might not get there without Pac-Man. And I'm not saying that makes Pac-Man automatically a good game, but I just think it's a game that holds up well. One reason is very simple, and it's the same, it's more or less the same thing I said about Cooler World in the transition to 3D with Cooler World. It's just that it has digital movement, so it doesn't suffer from some kind of early attempt to make something good and then just totally fucking it up because, you know, the technology's not there yet, or, you know, you don't have the know-how yet. So it's digital movement, and as a result, it still feels exactly as good today. It's just perfectly enjoyable game. So it's got that going over some games of the era. There was a lot of other games in the era that were kind of similar, like shoot 'em ups, like Space Invaders and stuff like that. But it's definitely a point in its favor anyway. I mean, I suppose they all had digital movement, you know, because that was all that could be handled back then. You know, even if you had a joystick, you were probably still moving in a digital kind of way. I think you know what I'm getting at, though. You're moving along a grid, up, down, left, or right, and that's it. And it works. It works. Clever idea. It's well done. Ghosts are well implemented. Obviously, you know, people have found patterns and stuff over the years, and that's unfortunate and what have you. But you know, every game has problems. Like Nex Machina has problems, right? You know, I love Nex Machina, and it's a much more advanced game than Pac-Man, but it still has what I would consider unfortunate problems in a way, you know? I should probably stop being so vague. I need to stop being vague about things. But like the disruptors, for example, in Nex Machina, you can see how they're kind of there to solve a problem, but they don't really solve the problem, and they kind of... They disrupt the consistency of the game, and, you know, there's things like that. So, yeah, okay, it's got flaws in that you can kind of infinitely loop once you figure out a perfect pattern, but hey, a pretty fucking good attempt for a game made in the 70s, you know? It was the 70s, right? It was early 80s at the very latest, anyway. Oh, it was 1980. Pac-Man was 1980, I think. Somebody tell me if I'm right on that. I want to say 1980 for Pac-Man. I'm terrible at remembering dates, you know, like in history class or whatever, but I seem to do a pretty good job of remembering years for games. 1980, yeah. Favorite ghost is probably Clyde, actually. He's the one who's kind of runs away from you, right? There's one of them that has, I think it's Clyde. He has a behavior that kind of runs away from you. I think he's kind of an important part of the game, even though he's, you know, theoretically the least dangerous one. But I think it would be a worse game if you didn't have that kind of something about him not behaving as rationally as the other three kind of disrupts your ability to understand them in real time. I think if they all came at you, I know that so Blinky is probably the most straightforward. Pinky and Inky are probably the most complex, or they're the most complex followers, right? But there's something about having Clyde there that kind of makes it harder to figure out what the fuck the other three are doing. So I think he's an important piece of the puzzle, actually. I built up an understanding that these things wouldn't hit me from off screen, but then they showed their true colors on stream, and so I gotta try and keep that in mind. I'm still taking no damage so far, if I'm right, but we're probably gonna get hit soon. Yeah, I actually I bought in on Record of Lodoss War a little while ago to get the early access price. I've played what's there. It's pretty good. It's nice. I think what I said on the other stream about their games kind of holds, and that I feel like it's not reaching its potential, or it's not doing enough with its premises or something. But it's a really nice game. I might mention it in one of the blog posts. I've been playing a few 2D games. I don't know if I made this clear enough on the stream. Somebody asked, you know, if you're making a game, would you look at other games? And I kind of gave this long rambling answer. I don't know if it was entirely clear, because I was kind of equating it with videos and shit, and I don't know how clear I am sometimes. The answer to that was yes, and it's something that I have been doing. And let me tell you, I'm pretty fucking envious of the engine that they have for those games. It really feels rock solid to me. I think it's a really nice. Both the Toho game and that Record of Lodoss War have a really nice feel to them. Everything seems to behave exactly the way you would expect. So that's something that I'm gonna try and aim for. I don't expect to get there straight away, but that's something that I would like to aim for with what I'm making as well. Especially because my tactic, as I kind of outlined before, is to not bet on one game working out, right? It's to have a couple of ideas, and if one doesn't work, fall back to the next one, right? So I'd really like to have a solid base to stand on. And I think that's one thing that's helped them. I mean, the games are a little short, but there's still a good bit in there, and they have some interesting systems in them. You know, to go from whenever that Toho game came out, I want to say maybe 2 years ago, to straight into Record of Lodoss War, which again feels good, looks good. You know, I have to imagine part of the reason they're able to do that is because they have a really solid base, right? The engine is just good, and they're comfortable with their tools and stuff, and they can just start cranking, right? So they did that Jack Frost thing not so long ago as well. So they can just crank stuff out, apparently, and good for them, you know? I probably shouldn't have even... There's something I never stopped to consider until just now. Why am I even picking those things up? I'm pretty sure they boost your health, right? So why am I even picking them up? They put me in danger, and the goal is to not get hit. I'm increasing my chances of getting hit for something that's no use. But you know what? I would hate to run past them. There's something about it that would just... Oh no. Oh, he's doing the bad pattern. Here we go. You gotta swap to a different weapon there. Don't try and hit him with the thing, because you will miss those little things that he sends at you. He's probably gonna do it again now. No, okay. Fuck off. Move further away. There we go. perfect. Great. My wench was bringing me a drink and I was thinking, how do I politely tell the wench that I can't pause my game and she needs to get the fuck out because I haven't taken damage? And then I'm worrying about that and then I just fell into the water. That's just how it goes. That's the price you pay for a nice drink. Oh, well, there we go. Fucking run's dead anyway, so... it was going well. It was going well. Ah, whatever. Whatever. Yeah, she should have said you're winning. How are you going to celebrate when you manage a 0 damage run? I probably won't celebrate because I have a fuckload of footage on this laptop that I still haven't so one of the shit things about doing a big video like Meta Micro videos, right, is I know it's only half an hour long, but it's a big video in the sense that it has footage from a lot of games, right? And that footage isn't edited down. Run is totally fucked now. I gave up mentally. The footage isn't edited down. You know, if I'm using like a minute of footage from Game X, there might be an hour of it on the hard drive, right? Because that's the smallest amount of it that I have saved, and I'm not going to go and render a new chunk just to then re-render it again in the video, right? So my hard drive is actually full at the minute, so I don't have OBS set up to record. I think you can get it to record the game footage and the commentary separately. So if I got 0 damage, ideally it would be nice to do a little commentary on it, you know? And I'm not committing to doing any more videos, right, at the moment, but it'd be nice to do a little commentary on it, wouldn't it? But then I would have to do it at no damage again. So that would put a damper on things. But I'll be pretty happy. I mean, you get the no damage, you get the no damage, you know? Did you play an hour of No More Heroes to grab that 1 second clip? I don't know if it was an hour, but yeah, I had to play up to the that first fight. It's a little while, actually. It's further than I thought. In my memory, I was thinking, you gotta, in my head, I was thinking the first sort of boss fight is only, let's just say this run is over and I'm just playing it for good footage while I talk, right? This is fucking over. I can't remember why I wanted to play to the first boss, considering what the footage is. It's just Travis recharging the battery. You know, sometimes when I'm recording footage, I'm definitely looking to get something, right? I mean, you can tell I went and I recorded No More Heroes specifically for Meta Micro videos, and I knew at that point, I think it was actually, it's funny you should ask about that one, because I think that's actually the very last piece of footage I recorded for Meta Micro videos. I think it might have been something that I slotted that in while I was re-rendering. That was a very last minute addition to the video. I think I fucked up. I had some little fuck up, like a frame came out wrong or something, and I'm like, look, this video is not coming out with a bad frame in it if I can help it, you know? So I knew that it was going to delay the video by however many hours, like basically a full day, to re-render it. And I went, you know, it'd be funny if I did that thing, because I kind of vaguely had it in the back of my head, and at some point you have to cut yourself off, but I went, oh, you know, if it's going to be an extra day late anyway, I'll go and do this, you know? I don't know why I waited till the first boss, but sometimes when I'm getting footage for something, I'm clearly looking for something, right? I was definitely looking for footage of Travis charging his sword, but I don't want to force the issue too hard. If I can help it, you know, I definitely demonstrate things through footage from time to time. But I try not to force the issue. And I think maybe yeah, the game kept giving me batteries when I was in the middle of the level. It keeps giving you refills and stuff. So you'd fight maybe 5 enemies because it's the first stage, you're not fighting many. And then you break a box and it's got a fucking battery in it. And it kept refilling my battery, you know? So I think it was only when I got to the boss that the battery actually ran out for the first time. But then, the first time, you don't just go, okay, I'm gonna play No More Heroes for a half an hour and hope that the very first time I charge the battery is a good enough shot to use, you know? So at that point I did force the issue a little bit. That's when you get a bit more creative with what you're actually doing in game. So I went, okay, I'm not sure that's the one that I will use, so, you know, my battery ran out here, so I'll just wear my battery down again and I'll grab another piece of me using it during this fight, you know? There's a little bit of acting going on when you're recording, which is why it's not that relaxing. For me, anyway. I think, you know, it's basically just a thing where I prefer to demonstrate things using unedited gameplay footage as much as possible, you know? I don't want to have to edit in some kind of overlay or pause the video or whatever, if I can help it. You know, sometimes I do those kinds of things, but particularly I use freeze frames and stuff from time to time, but I prefer to just have unedited footage in the background whenever I can. So sometimes you gotta get a bit creative to accomplish that, you know? I'm pretty sure that needle, if I was in the asteroid level, I would have been confident that needle would have missed, but I feel like maybe the needles just have a bigger hitbox. That would be the way to do it, really, wouldn't it? Rather than changing Epsilon Eagle's hitbox, it would just give the needle a bigger hitbox, and then it wouldn't even look that suspicious because Epsilon Eagle is so big anyway. If something hits something that's not his hitbox, it's still going to be more or less attached to him, so. I haven't played Bowser's Fury yet. I would like to play it, but I don't know. I mean, I like 3D World a lot. I think around the time I did the reviews, people were surprised to see how positive I was about 3D World, but I think it's a great game, in spite of some problems. And I think I might like the new version more, because it seems like they've added a little bit more to the movement and made it a bit faster, but I don't know that I need a Switch copy that much, you know? And I don't feel like paying that amount for Bowser's Fury either. It's, on the one hand, I feel like it's nice. I feel like the Switch is a much longer lasting platform than the Wii U. Partially by, you know, the nature of its success, but also partially because of its concept or something, or maybe it's just the execution of it. I don't know. It feels like the right console at the right time. Evidently that's true because, you know, a lot of people have bought it and a lot of people like it. So on the one hand, I'm kind of happy to see 3D World there because I feel like people will still have Switch games in, you know, 50 years sitting in a cupboard, and they might break out the Switch and play it, you know? Or the Switch 2, which will probably be compatible with Switch games. I would imagine the next one is going to have backwards compatibility. I think it would be really stupid for them not to just put out a Switch successor, which is more or less the same thing. Not that I want them to do that forever, because I think part of the appeal of Nintendo is the disruptive nature of them, but I think it's the right time for them to do an iterative console. Anyway, I think the Switch is a longer lasting platform for that reason, partly because I do think the next one will just be kind of a straight upgrade with backwards compatibility. So there's something nice about seeing a great game like 3D World be preserved in that way, but at the same time, I don't necessarily know that I need to buy it again right now, you know? I do think the Wii U as a concept, I don't throw this word around lightly, but I want to say the Wii U as a concept objectively has more potential, right? Because there's not a lot the Switch can do that, say, the PS4 can't, except that you hold it in your hands, right? I mean, in terms of the user experience, it does something very valuable in that it allows you to pick it up and you can, you know, play it in bed, or you can take it to a different room in your house, or, you know, you can let somebody else use the TV while you're using it, and that's all great, right? But in terms of what you can actually accomplish with games, it doesn't do more, whereas the Wii U did more. And, you know, you can argue that maybe that more wasn't always better, but it was nice to see at least a potential expansion on what games were capable of doing. So I agree that the Wii U was a better console in that way, but the Switch is good. Switch is pretty good. I think the Switch has, I've said this before, I think the Switch has more reason to exist than the new Xbox or the new PlayStation. Because at least it does something that a PC can't, you know? Or at least, if you want to do it on PC, you got to get another device and stream from your PC to the device or whatever. And that could have problems. You know, the Switch lets you actually have a game in your hands on the go. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. Yeah, like I suppose we wouldn't be in this problem if the what am I trying to say here? We wouldn't be in this problem if the Switch didn't replace both the 3DS and the Wii U, right? But you know, those games that I talked about in Mega Mike videos too, like Kid Icarus and Etrian Odyssey and stuff, they would at least be able to find a home on the Wii U if the Wii U was still around, you know, or if there was an equivalent to the Wii U, whereas they can't now, you know? Or at least not in the exact same way that they were before. So, there's something a little bit sad about that. Yeah, the PS5, yeah, I will say that's... I don't know if I discussed this on stream, and since I was just a bit critical of the PlayStation and the Xbox in comparison to the Switch, I should say in their favor, you know, some people say, oh, they're just slapping an SSD in it and trying to sell this to people, you know, 10 years after SSDs became mainstream in PCs. Well, first of all, they are a different class of SSD. You know, they're a different beast in the sense that they are genuinely operating on a faster level than the average SSD in a computer. But there's also it's not something where you can just look at the hardware and say, what am I trying to say? It's not something where you can just compare the best hardware of the PC to the console and say, oh, that's it. The difference is that developers can expect a certain level of speed, right? So like you wouldn't get a game like that new Ratchet game releasing on PC because developers, at least not with that level of graphical fidelity, you know what I mean? Developers can't expect a PC player to be able to stream those assets that quickly. So it is something new in that sense, in the sense that developers can take advantage of it in ways that they can't on the PC. It's not that the PC can't do what the PS5 does, it can, but only a select amount of users will have that right now, which drastically limits the audience for a given game. Whereas on the PS5, they know, okay, every PS5 owner is able to play Ratchet & Clank, therefore we can spend the money to make Ratchet & Clank work this way on the PS5, you know? So that it's not new in the sense that it's not necessarily new technology, right? Or not necessarily better than the best PCs out there, but it is new in the sense that developers can actually take advantage of it to its fullest potential, you know? So it does have something in that regard, and I do think that's cool because I fucking hate loading times, you know? I can't promise that my own game won't have any, but I hope it doesn't. I don't expect it will, you know, or if they do, they'll be like very, very, very short. hopefully. But yeah, I hate loading times. I really, really hate loading times. I can't believe that they're still around. I mean, it's kind of understandable in the sense that, you know, well, yeah, we should have sympathy for developers because they're asked to make games with very cutting-edge graphics, and you know, the console still had hard drives in them, and it wasn't a good situation in that sense. But you know, I'm somebody who doesn't need the best graphics in the world, so I really hate loading times. I really hate loading times. I think that I do like contextual loading times, but only when they don't interfere with only when they're not too bad, you know? Like, for example, obviously I was critical of the ones in God of War because they take too long, and they disrupt the flow of the game in a way that, you know, will be unnecessary in a while. I think that a good example is Shadow of the Colossus, right? When you finish a Colossi, there's a loading screen to take you back to the temple. But first of all, the loading screen has that nice sort of artsy flavor to it where something happens in there that's open to interpretation. You know, you hear something or something happens and you go, what's going on? There's something that you can read into it, right? It's like, it's got some thematic or, you know, a narrative relevance to it, right? But it also, it's brief, right? It's as brief as it needs to be. It gets the job done, and you can tell it's a loading screen, but you know. And if the developers really wanted to cut them, you could imagine a version of the game which cut those down to be as short as possible, or even removed them, and maybe didn't lose much in the process, you know? But like, I like the Shadow of the Colossus ones, you know, as a pretty good example. I'd say there are probably better examples, like for example, I don't know, I can't list any off the top of my head, right? But what I'm picturing is something like Crash Bandicoot, where you go into like a warp thing, you know, like, I know the Crash games don't have load times, right? But, or at least not after the first one, but like say, picture the second Crash Bandicoot game, right? Imagine that had load times, but when Crash walks into the warp thing, there's like a warp effect on the screen. And then once he's in the level, the warp effect fades away, right? And that's it, right? So obviously in Crash, we don't really care about the thematic relevance of the fucking warp screen taking up the whole thing. So when the next console comes out, you go, okay, we don't need that anymore, and you just cut it out completely. And then you just go like a flash of white and you're into the level. So now you don't even have the Shadow of the Colossus problem of losing some kind of thematic or interesting sort of narrative element in the game. Ta-da! Whereas, you know, with God of War, and like, I think it was a totally understandable temptation to do this. I just personally think it was misguided. You know, they basically have the warp tunnel thing that I just described, only they try to use that time to feed you some, you know, important or at least interesting narrative information explicitly, right? Like Mimir will tell a story when you're inside the world tree thing, or they'll talk to each other, or something will happen, you know? But the problem is then, once that narrative stuff is in, it's very hard to remove, you know? Whereas if you limit the amount of narrative or thematic substance that is imbued in the loading screen, then you can cut them out. So I think basically what you want for a loading screen, and this is kind of a moot conversation at this point, because hopefully this SSD thing is the killing blow for loading screens in the long term, right? But I suppose what you want is, you want something aesthetically appropriate, but without much narrative or thematic substance behind it, so that you can cut it later and nobody really cares, right? So something that is aesthetically good and like keeps you in the game and stuff, but you don't want to put too much actual meaning into the loading screen. So then you can just cut it out and it's gone. That's my thought process on it anyway. And the best move of all is to just not have a loading screen, which is much easier said than done, but you know. Man, it's not being kind. It's not being kind here. Now you see how cruel the asteroids can be. It's been kind of fun to see some of the RNG divergences on stream. I don't normally pay that much attention to them when I'm playing by myself, but I kind of hyper aware of them because I know that some people in the chat haven't actually played the game. So you must be being exposed to some of these things for the first time. But yeah, the asteroids can be that cruel. I would say overall on stream I've gotten lucky with them. That was a particularly bad one, so that was unlucky. But I would say on average on the streams I've been getting lucky in that I haven't gotten many mines at all. Accidentally changed weapon there, didn't mean to do that. Oh, I was getting greedy there. I was trying to save the Phoenix dive because I would rather use it on the other guy rather than just kill him. I'd rather use it on the snake thing because the snake boss is worse. I don't remember what the interactive thing is in the Devil May Cry 3 loading screens. I'm picturing them, it says now loading down the bottom. What's the interactive thing in it? They had some interactive thing in the Okami loading screens that they had to cut, I think. I don't know, I could be wrong. But Namco had a patent on minigames in loading screens for a long time. I think it's expired, but it was back with Tekken or Ridge Racer or some shit. They put Galaga in. I don't remember that in DMCA3 at all. I'm not sure I even knew that. Doesn't sound familiar to me. Yeah, I suppose that's nice to give you something to do. Like, I always like the Symphony of the Night one where you can just mess around with the text a little bit. It's a pretty bad run. Ah, fuck off. I'm doing alright. Doing alright overall. They had a Dragon Ball Z minigame where you collect money. That's what the patent was from. Isn't there a... I suppose you can... It's really fucking... First of all, the patent thing is shitty of them to do in the first place. It's really questionable, isn't it, what even counts as a loading screen or not? Isn't it... I think it's Nocturne I'm thinking of, where you... When you're in the Amala dungeon, you kind of fall down through a little pit thing. And you can collect some maca on the way down. And you know, that could be a loading screen. What happens then? I mean, do they have to say fucking Namco comes knocking on the door? Do they have to prove actually no, the game isn't loading during this? We just put this in here because we thought it would be fun, you know? Oh yeah, the controller's pretty good. It's way better than the SNES one. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt that they've improved the SNES one. I'm pretty happy with this this Mega Drive one. There's the part in the Wonderful 101 where the first boss is just stomping a bunch. Yeah, but that's gone in the remaster. I don't know if you played the remaster. It's one of the little subtle improvements that I've already kind of forgotten about when I'm playing the remaster, but it was really nice the first time going through it, is that there's so many little parts where the dialogue flows a lot better and stuff. Yeah, there was a really bad bit in the original one where it was right towards the end. It was actually the same, nearly the same bit I was talking about earlier with the lasers and the boomerang and stuff, where Wonder Red does one of his introductions, and then Blue says, I think we're past introductions, but there was this big fucking 10-second delay or something between the two lines of dialogue in the original version, you know? Whereas now it just flows exactly the way it was supposed to. You gotta wonder what was going through their head, you know, when they're making the game and they're playing it on their debug PCs or whatever, and it's probably running way better, and then they see it on the Wii U. There must have been a bit of disappointment there, you know? I'm sure the programmers did a good job optimizing it. But there must have been some disappointment. I feel like I don't want to shit on the optimization at all. I feel like the game was a big ask in terms of programming, you know? But we're going to make an action game, and we want it to play basically like Bayonetta, but you control 100 people. So there's 100 individual little dudes on screen, and you can shoot them out of a gun, you know? And also, you draw shapes on the ground, so we need an interpreter for the shapes. I would imagine that was probably one of the hardest things to get right in the thing. It's like one of the most basic gameplay mechanics in the whole game. I'm thinking of playing Resident Evil 4 next. Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it, to get good on RNG on that guy this time. It's just how it goes. Yeah, it's a pretty big ask, yeah. I will say, one thing I'm curious about, I haven't given a whole lot of thought to it, but one thing I'm curious about, right? So I've been thinking about collisions and stuff. And I have a good idea how they work in games in a general sense, right? But I've been thinking about it a little bit more, and it kind of stood out to me when I was doing the mod, because I'm paying really close attention to what's happening and stuff. And I just wonder how finicky it was. If it's already finicky on most games, because something is off about the Wonderful 101, you know, in terms of like the characters either have to be really small or the environments have to be really big, and either way it's probably hard to get the collisions right because they're so small. And like, one of the most basic problems you can have with collision detection is tunneling, right? Clipping through a wall. And how that happens is, say if you're above a wall on frame 1, and then you move so fast you're below the wall on frame 2, then the game doesn't see that you've actually intersected with the wall at any point. So it just lets you move through, right? Because you were on this side in frame 1, you're on that side in frame 2. And so I feel like it's probably harder to do that in the Wonderful 101 because the boxes for all the wonderful ones must be small, right? So maybe you just put some kind of floor. One way you could do is you could have each section of the game has a floor value that you can't go any lower than. But then you have to do that for every section of the game. And it still doesn't solve the problem of if you have like a little ledge where there's a box on it and you want to jump up there, how do you do the collisions on that and stuff, you know? And that's just one problem that this whole fucking 100 hero thing brings up, you know? So I feel like the game kind of doesn't get enough respect in that way, in terms of because you can tell that they would have liked to do another pass on it, you know. Sometimes it doesn't, it's not glitchy exactly, but sometimes you can tell it's kind of, you know, duct tape. There's some duct tape showing through the seams maybe a little bit. But even so, it's just really fucking, it's well put together. It's really well put together. Yeah, what's the guess for damage? You gotta get your damage guesses in. Yeah, I think it's pretty high. I'm gonna guess about 40. We got two 32s there. What we should do is we should average them all and put the wisdom of the crowd to the test, you know? What can also happen is if on the next frame the moving object is clipped to the other side of the wall, it can have clamping functionality to clamp it to the other side of the wall. Yeah. That's still kind of the same problem. It's just, it's resulting in an even worse outcome where you're now suddenly snapping into a location that doesn't make sense. But yeah. You basically get stuck on the other side of the wall in that case. I forgot to mention, one of the things that I did, it's a really cool thing. I think developers are more open about these things these days. Hopefully nobody at Platinum would mind me saying this, right? Hopefully it doesn't shatter your illusion of the whole game. But it's really cool, I think, anyway. Because the game has a fixed perspective, right? So I moved the camera around when I was modding it. I figured out how to move the camera around. So I was just poking around, moving it around. And I found out because the game has a fixed perspective in each level, one thing they did when they were optimizing it was they just straight up culled anything that wasn't visible, right? So maybe they ran a script over it that just, you know, saw, you know, what could be seen and what couldn't. I don't know how they did it, but it was probably one of the last things they did on the game was just get this thing as an optimization pass to just cut out anything that's not visible. So even if you, or maybe it's just the way I've manipulated the camera still doesn't move whatever determines what's visible, but I have a feeling that the actual data for this shit is gone. So like if you have a box, if you have like a bit of the stage sticking up as a platform, the whole back of that platform is gone. Nothing will ever bring it back. Like it's just not there, you know? So that's what the camera can't spin around or anything like that. So they just got rid of them all. So that would kind of happen anyway when you're passing, when you're doing a back face cull or whatever the proper term is, I forget. That would happen anyway. But if you can just eliminate those faces straight up, then you don't even have them in your array or whatever the fuck. So you're probably speeding the game up significantly. 30. I would say the wisdom of the crowd held up pretty well there because we had some over, some under. Yeah, but the difference, VNAC, is even though I moved the camera around, none of that stuff reappeared. So I don't know if that's... I can't imagine that's something that you could do in a lot of games. Because, like, if you have a first-person shooter or whatever, I mean, sure, you can cull anything that's outside the level or whatever. But the player could look anywhere, you know? Like I said, it could be that I'm moving the camera and that's not actually updating the frustum object or whatever. Because it's not expecting to be moved in that way. So maybe that's it. Maybe that's why it's still getting culled and it actually would be there if I could move that around. But I have a feeling that all those faces were just cut. Because it makes sense. If you could do something like that, you would eliminate them permanently and you would never have to worry about them then at that point. You wouldn't have to do a culling on them because they wouldn't even be in the queue, you know? They wouldn't even be asking, should you draw me? You know? Why even bother asking that question if the answer is always going to be no? Yeah, I would consider making a video about the game if it ever gets done. Yeah. It'd be nice to do a developer commentary, you know, someday down the line. That's a long way off. It's a long way off. Oh, I'm not accepting that. No, I didn't get a low damage thing. There won't be any Resident Evil 4 for quite a while. Even if I get below 10, I probably won't stream any Resi 4 yet. So it's all Alien Soldier all the time right now. This will be the last run if I even finish it. I don't know if I will. It's getting a bit late here. Can you recommend a programming language that helped you get there? I think that's the wrong question to ask. I think there are definitely languages that are more beginner friendly, you know, than others. For example, it's probably not a good idea to start out directly with C++. And I'm not even using C++ because I'm using GameMaker, and that uses GML, which is its own language. But it's not really the right question to ask. What you want is you want a good programming course, or you know, something like that. I'm not necessarily saying you need to go to college. I don't know if you do anymore. Maybe that was true at some point for programming. I don't know if it is anymore. I wouldn't be able to say. And it really depends on how self-motivated you are in the first place anyway, you know? Like a more structured environment is good if you're not motivated, if you have a place to turn up to every day. That can be helpful, you know? So I wouldn't rule it out, but I wouldn't recommend it either. It's something you'd have to decide for yourself. But it's really just about getting good fundamentals down in any language, and learning, you know, good patterns and good ideas about programming. Which I am not anywhere near as experienced as I would like to be, so it's not really something that I could give great advice on, you know? But I would say, I think it's a beginner question to ask, you know, which language, and it's understandable because the word language, for example, you know, it implies like, you know, oh, I'm going to learn Japanese and then I'm fucked for every other language afterwards. Or like, you know, none of that is going to transfer to German if I want to learn German or whatever, right? And none of my German is going to transfer to Russian or Chinese or whatever it is I choose to learn. But that's really not true of programming languages. They are, I would say, some people might disagree with this, but I would say they're more similar than different in large part. Some of them are much more difficult than others in that they give you much more control, and they have ways that you can make mistakes that you can't in other languages. But if you know how to use one, you can learn how to use another one. So it's not as important as it might seem. The better question is, where are you going to source your ideas from? And that's something I think you'll have to figure out for yourself, you know. So yeah, like as an example, just to give you a specific example, right? So I've been working on the some of the collision stuff, and it's in GML, which is a language that you only use in GameMaker, right? Now it has some similarities in how you write it, which is what we call syntax. It has some syntax similarities with other major languages like C or whatever. You use curly braces and you call things functions and stuff like that. But it's a bit different in other ways too. But the thing is, the stuff that I've been doing, there is specifics to GameMaker that are important and that I had to learn and so on. But if you said tomorrow, okay, you're not allowed to use GameMaker anymore, you have to write your own engine, I'd be bummed about that because it's not something I want to do right now. But I would already have learned some things that I could use in that way, right? So that's nice, right? A lot of the collision stuff that I've done so far is kind of generalizable, right? Now I would have to do more work to do it in a custom engine, but it's generalizable to a surprising degree. Because, you know, you're learning as you go, you're always learning. And so I'm learning, okay, this is how a tile works, and if I want to figure out what tile I'm in, how do I do that very quickly? You know, if I want to store the data about tiles, what's a good way of doing that? And that's something that you can do in any language, you know. A programming language is just a way of communicating with a computer, and they all kind of do the same thing underneath. So don't worry about it too much. Whatever you're comfortable with, that's what I would say. It is worth learning. it's worth learning more complicated languages as you go. Like, I don't have a lot of experience with C++, but when I was modding the Wonderful 101, I was digging into the assembly. That's how you have to view it when you're hacking it. So I was viewing it as assembly, and that was good because it took some things that I knew in theory about, you know, memory and how things are stored and computed, how things are run through the processor, you know, and how things are stored in RAM and addresses and things like that. It took things that I knew in theory and exposed me to them in practice much more than I had before. And then you really absorb them better. And that's good stuff to know, because it can help you figure out what is or isn't important, you know? And how the computer actually functions underneath the shit that you're writing. Because the thing is, some languages are way more efficient than others because of reasons that I won't get into. But ultimately, your processor has one instruction set underneath all that. Okay, so there's your processor. If you're on a computer, it's an x86 64 most likely, right? And that has certain operations in it. Like if you've ever played a fucking Zachtronics game, operations like move and stuff like that. And no matter which language is being run through it, it will run those operations, you know? The question is just how much sort of protection and extra stuff does it have on top of that. So it does slow down significantly, you know, but ultimately it's the same processor underneath it all, you know? So the programming language, it matters, definitely matters, but if you're just learning, it doesn't matter that much, I would say. Anyway, you know, if there's somebody in the chat who feels strongly about this, feel free to disagree, because it's not like I wouldn't really call myself a professional programmer, even though I did it professionally for a while, you know? I don't know if there's a way to do frame independent stuff in GameMaker. There probably is a way to do it, but by default GameMaker stuff is frame dependent, and that's one of the things I will talk about in the first blog post. But to give you the long and short of it, Joe, yeah, I'm probably just going to go with frame rate dependence for now, and then and then, you know, we can worry about anything else later, but it's actually not that big a deal, I think. I'll definitely be talking about this in the first blog post, because I feel like the Beautiful Joe commentary, where I talked about frame rate dependence and independence, was kind of a turning point for me, in that it made me realize that this actually isn't as big an issue as you thought, you know? It's one of those cases where a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. So I knew that, okay, ideally if I make a game, it would have something like a frame rate independent system, you know? So that I can run it at higher frame rates, and that's the way the big boys do it, so I should do it the same way. But it's much harder to do, especially when you're a novice, right? And so that's kind of crippling. But when I was doing the Beautiful Joe commentary, I had this like eureka moment where I realized, actually, okay, maybe frame rate independence is still better and something to strive for, but actually it's not that bad. It's not that bad to have a frame rate dependent game. And then I even thought, you know, after I did the commentary and stuff, I was thinking, you just made a 3-hour video about why Beautiful Joe is so fucking good, you know? And it's a frame rate dependent game. Lots of your favorite games are. So it can't matter that much, you know? It can't matter that much. So yeah, it's going to be frame rate dependent. To begin with, anyway. Even the fucking Wonderful 101 is frame rate dependent. I feel like, I don't know if anybody... Maybe if you have a really good engine, you know, you have a really top tier engine that sort of abstracts this problem away from the gameplay designers and stuff, this becomes less of a problem. But I really do think that the frame rate dependence probably has upsides that people don't discuss in terms of production, you know? Because I feel like it can't be a coincidence that games like Bayonetta and the Wonderful 101 have that, you know? They must know that there's benefits to doing it that way, as in, like, you go, okay, like when you're making an attack or something, you go, oh, it's going to last for X number of frames, you know? Rather than having to go, it's going to last this amount of time, and then some programmer has to like come up with a tool that sort of helps the artists or the gameplay programmer or the gameplay designers figure out how long that lasts or something. I don't know. It seems like there must be some benefit to it, or maybe they just haven't moved on yet, you know. But yeah, I think I need to learn a bit more about frame rate independence as well, because it's not like you can just say I'm going to defer the next frame forever, right? So there is kind of a bit of a lie. I would love if anybody corrected me on this, right? It is kind of a lie to say that an engine can be frame independent, but it can't be time frame independent, right? As in, if you have a physics system, you can't just wait forever to update that physics system, right? If it doesn't get updated within a certain amount of time, it's fucked. It's things are going to clip through each other. So basically what you have to do is you have to kind of figure out, am I actually able to render this frame? And if I'm not, well, I'll just do the physics and we'll worry about that on the next one, you know? That's my understanding of the frame rate independence side of things. So I would love to know if I'm wrong on that, or if there's a clever workaround for that. But I do feel like it's not a lie exactly to say it's frame independent, because the drawing is being done separately from the underlying logic. But there is still ultimately some kind of time limit on when a deadline on when the physics needs to be updated, or shit's gonna start clipping, man. You know, that's basically the gist of it. That's how I understand it anyway. Cycle independent timer. A cycle independent timer? Is such a thing even possible? I don't know. That sounds strange to me, but yeah, maybe it's real. How do you do a cycle independent timer? Frame interpolation regardless of physics. But let's say I don't know. I'm definitely not ruling out the fact that there's some clever way of doing this that I haven't realized, okay? Like, this is not something I've done a lot of research into, but I just feel like for example, if your physics starts to lag behind and your interpolation takes longer than a tick of your physics thing, then won't you only just fall further and further behind? You know what I mean? Yeah, you can queue the frame for as long as you want, but if you keep delaying the frame, then the player doesn't see any update on screen. And if you keep delaying the frame, the player doesn't see anything on screen. And if you force it, you could skip, but then you're gonna miss some collisions and shit. I don't know. I'm interested in this. I'm definitely interested in knowing what the truth is behind all this. But the long and short of it is that I'm just gonna do frame rate dependent for now. Can always do a remastered version later. Yeah, but the thing is, okay, now, yeah, here's what I was gonna say. So you can defer the frame and keep the physics ticking, right? But if you have to stop the physics, like let's say you have to pause your physics. Let's say something really complicated happens, right? And you keep missing your physics deadline. So you have to pause the whole game. Well, now you have slowdown. This the exact same way a frame rate dependent game does, because you can't update your physics in time. So you have to actually slow down the rate at which the game is running. And now you just have the same problem as a frame rate dependent game. You're having frame rate dips, and the actual action of the game is slugging in real time, you know? So that can't be the solution. There's the rare overhead attack. Don't see that one much on stream. I don't know if it's going to be developed single-handedly, but I'm going to do as much as I can single-handedly, yeah. Yeah. Starting very, very small. Intentionally very, very, very small. We'll see how it goes. I just need some time to do something by myself, you know? That's all. Take it at my own pace. I have played Joust, yeah. I haven't played much of it, but yeah, I've definitely played it, yeah. That is a lot of bullets. Can I just... I feel like there's a... Have I said this before? There might be a sweet spot here. Look at that. Oh, that's pretty nice. I know, I would feel a bit cheap about using it, but then again, it's a hard game. It's a hard game to get 0 damage in. No, I won't be making any art assets. I don't think so. I might try to make music, though. I think music is something I could maybe do. There's been some games where people have made music that weren't musicians before. Like, I'm pretty sure Lifeformed wasn't a musician before Dustforce. It's a pretty good soundtrack. And Thomas Happ did the soundtrack for Axiom Verge as well. Don't think he was a music maker before that. I'd give it a go anyway. Yeah, I kind of tried to learn the piano a long time ago. I never actually learned to read music or anything like that, you know. I would just basically look at people's hands playing shit and just copy them, you know. I'd say the most complicated thing I could play back when I could play it, which I can't anymore, is I learned how to play Like Spinning Plates, the piano version of that from Radiohead. So the album version is just a kind of ambient synth thing, but the live version is a piano thing, and I learned how to play that. I was thinking of buying a keyboard or something, like a piano keyboard. I was looking at one the other day, and then I was actually, I think it was yesterday I was looking at one. Thinking, you know, this could be useful for the game if I got back into a musical sense, right? I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, would this help me relax, you know? Like, I need something to relax with. I need to buy some books, or I need to, I don't know, man, I need something to relax with, right? And I'm just thinking, you're gonna buy yourself an instrument, right? You're thinking, oh, I should be learning Japanese, or I should be watching programming videos, or I should be working on the game, or I should be streaming for people, or whatever. And now, to relax, you're gonna learn to play an instrument. That's what you're gonna do. It's just not gonna work out, you know? You can only do so much. This is a terrible run. Terrible. I can't get the mic volume to go any higher now, sorry. It is what it is. I don't have anxiety, I just feel restless. I'm not anxious about it, you know, if the game fails or whatever, it is what it is. I think that's a good way of looking at it, you know? Like I said in the post, the worst case scenario is that I learn some things and I go back to making videos and I know a bit more, you know? But, I do feel restless. Yeah. Always feel restless. Get into VTubers? No, thanks. I have been tempted to watch one as practice, you know, for language learning. But I haven't bit the bullet yet. I don't think I will. I'll probably just watch some more anime or something. No, I don't think I'll be participating in any kind of game jam or anything like that. I can definitely see the value in it, but I think I'm just going to try and focus on something and bring it to completion if possible, you know? I know game jam stuff can be brought to completion afterwards. I just want it's not something that I'm going to do. How would you make a game with no art assets? Well, I actually thought about this. I thought, still don't think I have the best reading voice or anything like that, but I know a lot of people like my voice, and I was thinking it could be interesting to make a game. This isn't one of the games I'm working on or anything like that. It could be interesting to make a game like a choose your own adventure thing where there's no visuals, right? And I just read it out like an audiobook, and you choose your path, you know? I was thinking it could be nice. It could be a game that blind people could play, you know, and even just if you have sight, you could play it, you know, in bed or something. You could lie down. Say you release it on phones or on the Switch or something, you could like have all the choices so that they're direction orientated, you know. Or you could use creative wording to make them sound direction orientated, and then you swipe up, down, left, or right to make your choice, and that's your adventure. And that would make use of some of the skill I've developed. I don't know, I haven't really voice trained or anything like that, but yeah, just like Zork but with audio basically. But it's not something that I'm making. Would I sing in music for my game? I might, yeah. Yeah. Depends on how much it makes on the Kickstarter. That could be a Kickstarter goal. There you go. I think I'm not thinking about the channel as I make, or as I consider making games or whatever. But it would be nice to kind of try and draw on some of the skill sets that I already have. You know, that's where that idea came from. Like, but at the same time, the fact of the matter is I don't actually enjoy recording audio. I know a lot of you like my voice, but I don't like recording it. It's my least favorite part of the process. It always has been. So I can't imagine that would change just because it's a game, you know? I'm not used to having the Phoenix dive against this guy, so kind of fucked it up. I believe I've talked about accessibility a couple of times, a bit in the Beautiful Joe video. No, I don't think it's always paramount. No, that example in The Witness that you mentioned actually is a good example. Yeah, the bit with the colors. It is a good example. Probably better than the one I gave in the Beautiful Joe video, but the one in the Beautiful Joe video is pretty good. It's around Fire Leo. I don't think, personally I will say one thing that annoys me about the accessibility debate is just that this is it's a stupid thing to get hung up on, right? But you could say that what I've done with the channel is I've basically done argumentation for a living, right? And there's some fucking weak ass argumentation, man, you know? Like I think the way I framed it in the Beautiful Joe video is a lot better, right? Because you don't have to say, oh, you know, be empathetic, right? Think about other people and think about people who are in this situation. You don't even need to invoke that argument, right? So therefore, you don't have to be sanctimonious, right? You don't have to say, you don't have to give like a viewer or somebody you're talking with an impression that, you know, you're trying to be goody two-shoes for everybody else. All you have to say is, you could wake up blind tomorrow, right? Because you could. And in that case, wouldn't you like to have some games to play, right? So that was more or less what I said in the Beautiful Joe video, but with like if you lost use of your body, right? Because it could happen. You never know, right? And in that case, I'm going to be very thankful that those Zachtronics games exist, right? Because then I still have great games to play, even if I can't, you know, move my hand on the controller very quickly, right? So just ditch the empathy part of the argument and just say, what if this happened to you? And then you don't have to, then the whole fucking conversation changes then, you know? So I don't always think it should be paramount, but at the same time, I think it is important to recognize, even just forget everybody else and just say, that could be you, right? And if you were in that situation, you would like something to play. Or you would like not to be blocked from playing a game that could be your favorite, for a thing that the developer could have really easily avoided, right? So like something in the case of The Witness, the thing that you mentioned about colors, that's something where it does kind of hamper the potential of the game, and like a big part of the appeal of that game is how thoroughly it explores its concepts and stuff. So in that case, no, it's not a problem that it doesn't have that, right? And also, anyway, you can probably complete The Witness without doing any singular set of puzzles, except maybe the last few anyway, so there's that too. But you know, I'm just saying I don't like poor argumentation. That's what I'm saying. Does recording lack in good visualizations of the audio, or are there other reasons you don't like recording? I really have no idea what you mean by that. But basically I just don't like recording. I flub lines very often. I don't like it. I get very frustrated with it. I get annoyed. It's just not a process I enjoy, that's all. I always feel after I've done a recording session, they usually go on much longer than you would think, you know, for the video. And after I've done one, I'm always like, fuck this, I'm done for the day, you know? Because it probably takes on average about 3 times longer than the video actually takes, and I'm just uncomfortable and unhappy and doing the same shit over and over again and getting increasingly pissed off at myself over it. So it's really not good. Well, I say I'm done for the day. Often I'll edit the audio as well, but I don't enjoy that either. But you know, do the audio and that's it. I fucking hate it. I really fucking hate it. So that's one main reason why I don't want to go through with that game idea. But I do think it would make use of a skill in that I haven't done like acting on the channel, but I have gotten much better at just reading shit from a page. And I don't know, maybe you could count it as acting. Because you want, you know, when you write something, you have a certain inflection in your head because you want to imagine that you just said it to somebody, right? You're having a conversation with somebody and you want it to feel like you're just talking, you're just across from them and you're just chatting with them, you know? I don't like to get too conversational and go, you know, ooh, I don't like that. But at the same time, even in the relatively dry, well, not relatively, even in the dry delivery style that I have, there is a bit of, I hope there's a little bit of sort of conversationality in it, you know what I mean? Has my tolerance of recording gotten better? Partially. Moving definitely helped. It was way worse when I was in the apartment because we lived right next to a busy road and cars would drive by even late at night and make a lot of noise. I am honestly not convinced that it should be legal to have apartments like that. I don't know. I feel like if I opened the window in the apartment, I feel like the decibel level of a car, or particularly a truck or something driving by, actually reached a bad level for your ears. I don't know. But it was really that bad. So on top of flubbing lines, then you have some fucker driving down the road. Even if you wait until 3 o'clock in the morning, somebody will drive by and it's like, well, there's the one take that you did right out of the last 3 and it's fucked, you know? So now you can be pissed off about that as well. So I just don't like it. I just did not enjoy it. So that's better. It's much quieter now. And, yeah, I would say it has gotten better, especially. Yeah, I've gotten better at it, and I would say I do get a bit less frustrated with it, but I still don't enjoy it, and it's still my least favorite part of the process. That hasn't ever changed. I don't think there's ever been a time where I went, oh yeah, I get to do audio now. Whereas, you know, it depends on the video which part I'm going to enjoy more, but I've enjoyed writing scripts, I've enjoyed editing scripts, I've enjoyed editing videos. I don't think I have ever enjoyed doing the audio, ever. It's just crap, man. And that's funny as well, you know, because people go, oh, I love your voice, or, you know, you have a great voice, blah, blah, blah. I love your accent, I love your voice. You know, I like to go sleep to your videos. I like to daydream about your voice. Wrapping me up in a warm blanket and all. It's like, the fucking pain. why are you screaming in your earlier vids? Because the fucking gain on the microphone was terrible. It was a different microphone, and the gain was terrible on it. And I couldn't get the gain to go any higher for some reason, and it just wasn't working any other way. So that's why I'm screaming. I haven't actually got through any more PS2 games now. I haven't really been playing anything. I played Deedlit and I played Loop Hero. Those are the two games I played recently. I'm looking forward to going back to Deedlit and finishing it when it comes out of the early access thing. I want to play more 2D stuff. 2D. You know, I was saying earlier, I don't know if I am clear enough when I'm streaming about things. And now I've already forgotten whether I was clear enough, whether my clarification was clear enough, because I think I derailed my clarification somehow. I was saying earlier, right? I was saying earlier that somebody asked before, they were developing a game, I think, and they said, you know, if you were making a game, would you look at other games, similar games, to see, you know, things about them? Yes. So, you know, if you're a long time watcher, you know I don't watch other YouTubers, but I play a lot of games, and I am definitely interested in playing more 2D games to get a feel for them, and, you know, just make sure that I'm happy with my own one, you know? I think the difference for me, part of the reasoning for me is because, like I said before, I didn't get into this because some other YouTuber inspired me or something like that, so there's that, you know, and it wasn't even really a thing when I started. Whereas with games, I've been playing them all my life, so there's no point pretending now. There's no point going, okay, well, I'm making a game, so I just won't play any 2D action platformers right now, you know? It's way too fucking late for that, right? You know? Yeah, it's way too late for that. So I might as well just double down on it and play some more. Play some more. Like I said, I'm very jealous of that fucking whatever engine they have for that Deedlit game. It seems really solid and nice. Get your damage guesses in over the next minute. What 2D action games are you looking at for ideas? I'm not necessarily looking at them for ideas, because I know, like I said, I have 4 ideas for different games, and I know what those 4 ideas are, so I know what the sort of, I know what the center of each of those games is, you know? So it's not so much about ideas, it's just making sure that I'm happy with them, you know? Making sure that I'm happy with how everything behaves and that it feels good. It's more that sort of micro, sort of feels good kind of thing. Like, I don't know. I don't think the games that I have in mind have much similarity to Dust Force, for example. But at the same time, I said that I'm jealous of that engine. The Dust Force engine also seems really good to me in the kinds of surfaces that it handles and stuff like that. And I just think I probably don't need all that functionality, but I might as well try and build some of that in there now, you know, sooner rather than later. I know that that's not an attitude you want to have for a whole project, but this is just the approach that I've decided to take, where I have trapdoors, I have fallbacks for myself, you know, if the first one doesn't work, onto the second one. But they're different games, and I want to make sure that I'm not going to be starting over from scratch if the first one falls through, you know? Using Game Maker. I'm interested in Paprium, yeah. I don't know when I'll get around to playing it. I still haven't finished Xeno Crisis. So there's that. Probably some other Mega Drive games for me to get into now. Yeah, I think I know enough to avoid feature creep. I don't think I'm worried about that. I think the first game has a very simple feature set. The second game is pretty simple as well, and it's only the third and fourth that might have a whole bunch of features in them. And hopefully we don't have to do one of those as the first project that actually comes to completion. Hopefully it'll be the first or second one. This is the end of the stream, by the way. We're going to see our damage number, and I might chat for a minute or two, but then I'm gonna go. Do you making a game coincide with playing Rain World at all? No. I'll make this clear in one of the blog posts, but I suppose I don't want to talk too much about what the game ideas are, but they are not. There's a lot of mechanical enjoyment you can derive from Rain World, but I don't think that's the thrust of that game. You know what I mean? Like, I really appreciate that there is so much mechanical enjoyment you can get out of it, but I don't think that's the main thrust of that game. Whereas I would rather play to my strengths in the beginning, and my strengths are, I like games like Alien Soldier and The Wonderful 101 and shit, you know? So I would rather make something that's mechanically enjoyable, and I will try to do something thematically interesting with them if I can, but it's not the goal. The goal is just to make a game, you know. I'm not saying Rain World isn't a game. The goal is to make a simple game that you play and you enjoy for the act of playing, and that's that, you know. It's a good question. Did you create design documents as you progress in development? I don't have any design documents. No. Well, I say I don't. I have notes written. I have a little notebook, and I have some notes written on various game ideas in there. There are like sort of central hooks for a bunch of different game ideas. I don't know how viable they are. Like the first idea that I'm going to try, I don't know how viable it is. I mean, you can write down a design document and you can say, this seems like it would be fun, and it does seem like it would be fun to me. But I think the better thing to do is to just fucking prototype it and see if it actually is fun, you know? So that's what I'm going to do first, is I'm going to prototype it, and I'm going to see if it's fun. I think that the first one does have a pretty high likelihood of falling through, unfortunately. Because it seems fun, but then it also seems like one of those ideas that might have a hole in it somewhere that makes it not so fun, you know? So it just has to be tried, and then I'll see whether there's something worth pursuing there, you know? 30 again, that's 2 in a row, is it? No, I don't think there's a way to skip the credits, although it would be nice to just let it play out anyway. Get some chat time in. I'm always ignoring it. Something Blaster scale or smaller. I would say the first game is even smaller. I think so. The games go in increasing size. So if I say game 1, 2, 3, 4, I mean increasing size. So game 1 is smaller than Blaster, but game 2 is about Blaster size. You're thinking along the right lines there. I would say for game 2, if I was going to do something around the same size as Blaster, the way it would be different from Blaster is instead of having a harder difficulty, I would just roll that effort into the main campaign. So make something a bit longer, but make it difficult, and don't have another difficulty level, you know. But that's a good example, I would say, Blaster. And actually, somebody asked about Rain World. Was it an influence? Was it a moment when I decided? I wouldn't say Blaster was the moment either, because I've always wanted to make a game, you know. But Blaster, I think it is inspiring in the sense that it's very straightforward. You know, it's kind of an unassuming game when you play it, and I do think the hard mode is considerably better than the main mode for the most part. Again, the final level, I don't know, but I really enjoyed that there was the hard mode there, and it kind of doubled the length of the game, and it felt meaningful the way that the difficulty increased and stuff. But for the most part, it's a pretty simple game, but I really enjoyed it, you know? And like that's what it's all about at the end of the day, you know? Did you like it or not? I liked Blaster. So yeah, it was small and relatively simple, but I enjoyed it more than a lot of other games, you know? So maybe I can do something like that. Maybe. Yeah, prototyping is important. I've dropped many before getting to my current project, but now I effortlessly spend time on it every day. Yeah, so that's why I have 4, so that I have a fallback. I hope I can finish the first one. I hope it's fun. I hope it works out. I hope I can finish it, but it's wiser to expect that it's not going to work and that you're going to need to do something else instead, you know? So if you're using GameMaker, I would highly recommend using GM Edit. It removes a lot of dealing with the GameMaker UI. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll keep that in mind. Yeah, it's a bit weird, the thing that they have. I can kind of see what they're going for, especially for novice programmers, kind of tying all the stuff onto the object so that you can see it there. And I think I got into GameMaker at a pretty good time as well, because it seems like they only relatively recently sort of spun functions out into something that you could write more generally elsewhere in the program and stuff. I don't know, it's a while since I read up on it, but there was something there that made me think, man, I'm glad I got into it now rather than before. Maybe it was the 2.0 version or something. But yeah, the editor is a little bit weird. You feel kind of confined in it sometimes. Yeah, Zangyo mode is really fun. Yeah, it's really good. I liked the ending to Danganronpa V3, but I won't say any more about it. Do you have a time frame for yourself as to when you would like to have it close to done? I can give you like a really optimistic time frame. I think the optimistic time frame for the smallest idea. The optimistic time frame is probably 6 months, right? That's a very optimistic time frame because this is the first thing I've done, so it's probably going to be wrought with problems and stuff, you know. So I think it's more realistic that it'll take over a year, even though it's a very small thing. But I am starting small. I really want to do one of the first 2 games so that it is a small thing, very small, you know, just get a game made, you know. Blaster is a nice little size. I think once you have the basics down, you could make a game like that relatively quickly, you know. So yeah, most likely gonna have to triple that. Yeah, I don't expect it to be done in 6 months. I think it's more like a year, maybe 2. But the point is definitely to start as small as possible. I mean, of all the game ideas I've ever had over the years, this is the smallest one. And that's the reason why it's the first thing, you know? So. Multiply it by 4. Okay, 2 years. 2 years. That's the optimistic estimate now. There we go. Five-line visual novel. Yeah, it's a haiku. It's an interactive haiku. It's hard to get the collision detection right on a haiku because you don't know if the last line actually lands in the right place or not, you know? Here's the name for anybody who didn't see this on a previous stream. There's the names of all the bosses. Jet Stripper, Android, Shell Shogun, Sniper Honey Viper, Madame Barbar, Joker, Terror Buster, Flying Neo, Z Tiger, Deep Strider. Oh, that's the lobster, is it? No. Which one is Deep Strider? Z Tiger is the guy on top of the train. Gusthead is the guy... Oh, he's the shark. Gusthead, Sharp Steel, that's the lobster. Bugmax. Victor, Sunset Sting. Epsilon 1. And of course, Wolf Gunblood and Garapa. You might be able to play as a frog in the game. I don't know. I don't know yet. Probably not. If I had to guess, probably no frogs. Return of the Oberdin was expected to take a few months and it took close to 5 years. Yeah, pretty much every time frame a developer ever gives is doubled or tripled by the time the game actually comes out. So, you know, I'll consider myself lucky if I have anything good to show in a year, you know? How cool will your character names be? Good question. All right. I think that about does it, everybody. Not great runs, but then again, I haven't played it in at least a couple of weeks anyway. It might have been close to a month at this point. It's a shame. I did think by now I probably would have got an under 10 just by sheer chance because, I mean, the lowest I've ever gotten is 4. It was significantly lower than the next lowest I've ever gotten. But sometimes you just have little anomalies like that where it turns out right, you know? I would have assumed one of them would happen by now, but maybe next stream. It's still going to be Alien Soldier next time I'm on. I don't know when that'll be. But, yeah. That's going to be it for now. All right, everybody. I shall see you all next time. Good night, everybody. Hope you have a good one.